Go to game scene. There we go. Got music on. There we go. Switch back over. Are we all good? Can I see me on OBS? I can. Can I hear me on OBS? I can. Can we hear you?
Hopefully you can.
Yeah. Lovely. Sounds good. Also, LP, you're on a work call, but no worries. Right. Yeah, so let's just go over what we're doing. So we're working on the to-do app today with Streamsmiths. We started working on this last Monday, and this is what we got done so far. This is slightly different from what we've done so far because I made some small changes, which I'm going to go over in a second. But essentially, we created this to-do list where on the front end you've got this header that's little titles to give you an idea as to what these columns that we've got are for. So there's going to be a list here with the columns. So you get your to-do list. Essentially, you've got rows of to-do items, and to the left of them a little tick box that you can tick and it registers it as completed. A little plus button that when you hit it, it adds stuff to it. I'm going to run it to show you. There we go. So this is it here. So yeah, if I hit the plus, we get this row come up here, and I can type in here to do 1, and then hit plus again. We can get another one. Head to store, and set the plus again, and we can tick off to do 1 because we did that for some reason, whatever it is. Buy lettuce. I don't know if that's how you spell lettuce, but whatever. So we head to the store, we bought our lettuce, boom, done. You can remove things, nice and easy. Yeah, so that's what we did last time. On the back end, we added stuff in that would allow us to add, remove, and clear the activities, as well as little handlers for the buttons. That's what these are. Click handlers. So that when you actually click on the buttons, they actually run these bits of code that we created to modify the list. Yeah, so Streamsmiths has a slightly different, look to his than mine. He's got a little bit of extra code in some places and some different code. So for example, on this add activity, he would have a lst task dot items source equals null, and then lst there we go, lst task dot select item equals activity list. He's got this, and he's got it on the remove activity as well. However, that was a little hacky thing we introduced to work around the front end, like the UI, not updating when we hit the plus and minus buttons, essentially. However, I have since come up with a fix. Managed to find this online, which is where I find all my good fixes. And we tried this. The thing is, we tried this, but we were missing one little thing. So I'm going to go through it all that I've made, all the changes I've made. First of all, I got rid of the list.item source equals null and then activity list. So Streamsmiths, if you want to get rid of those, let me just put up Discord so I can see what's going on. Yeah, so you want to get rid of those, yeah. And then the next thing you want to do is in main window, in the public main window, so line 16, I've got it on my screen. There's the main window constructor, that's what that is, and we've got this initialized component which is inside that. Underneath that, I've then done this dot data context equals this, and that basically means that anything we do it means that we can bind things from the back end to the front end. Yeah, it just means that we can use things on the front end that are in the back end, which is what we were trying to do last time. So we did this last time. It's just like I said, there was one key difference. We're not quite there yet. We'll get to there in just 1 second. But the next thing we want to do is on the front end. So you want to go into the Xaml file, and you want to find your list view. So you want to find the root tag, the root.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. So if you hit at the bottom of your screen, you've got where it says design and then XAML. Yeah. If you hit the on the right hand side, on my restream chat's actually covering it, but you should, on that bar at the bottom on the right hand side, you should see 3 buttons, one with a vertical line, one with a horizontal line, and then one with 2 down arrows or something. If you hit the horizontal line one, it should split it. Yeah, there you go. And if you want them to be like mine, where you've got the design on the top and the code on the bottom, between the design and the XAML tabs on the left-hand side of that bar, there's a little up-down arrow. If you hit that, it will switch them. There you go. Oh, wait, that didn't switch them. That's glitchy. I will admit I have had that problem before. If you just do that again. Okay, if you select design this time, and then hit the horizontal bar, is that going to switch? Yeah, there you go. It's just a bit glitchy. I think 2019 is just a little bit glitchy, because I've had that problem before. But yeah, so we want to go to the root of our list view. So for me, it's line 27. For you, I think it's 26. Is it? Yeah, 26. I think it's the one above the one you got selected. Yeah, that one. There you go. So that's the root of it. And what you want to do is at the end, you want to do more. I'm just going to do one quick thing. How do I pop that out? One sec. Oh god, you can all see it. It's the screen. There we go. I just wanted to pop out your screen so I can see it a bit bigger. Right. So yeah. So you item source. Yeah. There you go. So item source equals, and then you want to do binding inside that. Oh, sorry. You want to do a squiggly bracket, and then binding inside the squiggly brackets. Yeah. Binding, and then space. So this is within the binding part. So after binding, before the squiggly bracket. There you go. You want to do space and then activity list, exactly as it's called in the back end. It won't appear as a suggestion. And then you want to do a comma, and then an update source trigger. Yeah, and then you want to do property changed. So it's the fourth option in that list that's just appeared. There you go. Right, so I don't think we did that property change part last time, but I mean, that wouldn't have, that on its own hasn't fixed anything. This final step, there's one more thing we need to do, and that this final step is actually the thing that then makes it possible for it to update on the front end. So this, we have to do this on the back end. I'll let you sort out you're good. Okay. So you want to head back to the back end, so the C# code.
Yep.
And now, right at the top, you've got a public list activity. It actually needs to be a public observable collection. So your public list activity, you just need to remove the list part. Yeah, remove that, and replace it with observable collection. You may need to, yes. So you're probably going to need to import system.collection.object model. If you change that collection to have a capital C, it might automatically suggest it. It might suggest an import. So if you do like an alt enter. Yeah, there you go, that's the one. Using system.collection.object model. Cool. And now, if you run it, it should, in theory, work without us having to do that hack where we do the item source dot equals null. There we go. Love it. You guys can't see it, but on Streamsmiths' screen, I can see a working to-do list. Love it. Hey LP. Okay, now I'm here. Now I'm here, kinda here to mock. I mean, provide feedback. No worries, LP. And yes, I did take your suggestion for the title. Thank you very much for that. Right then, there we go. So that's got the bug from last time fixed. So I guess it wasn't really a bug because we did fix it. It's just we used a really hacky workaround that you shouldn't do. It's bad practice. But yeah, now we're going to move on to storing our activity list. So, are you ready, Streamsmiths?
Yep.
Lovely. That's what I like to hear. What we're going to do, I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tidy up our code just a bit and basically add a bit of organization. So Visual Studio actually supports like what they're called is they support something called regions, where you can essentially group a bunch of code and collapse it. Like you can shrink it in on itself. So if you look on the left hand side of the code, there's these like little boxes with minus like symbols inside of them. It'll be like, you know, where you've got your public main window, for example, there's like dotted line sort of to the left of it, and then another dotted line, and then just right next to the left of that, you've got a little minus button. If you hit that, it'll minimize it. And that's great. That is wonderful. If you've got this massive like 500 line like method, that's great. It's super like great for organization. However, your code here might have 50 different methods, and it might be like 5 of them do one thing, another 5 do something else, and it might be nice to then organize those down as well. And that's what regions are for. So we're going to do that. We're going to do make a region. So to do that, you just basically want to make a space between main window and add activity, type the hash symbol, £, whatever, wherever you're from, whatever you call it. Obviously we call the £, the British £, GBP, but whatever you call it, the hash symbol, hashtag, you do that, and then you type region, and then just hit tab, and it should automatically. Okay, it doesn't for you. That's fine. We'll run through it anyway. You want to do a space here. For me, it's auto filled. I think that's resharper actually. I think it's resharper that's automatically like giving me everything I need. But you want to give it a name. So we're not actually going to call it my region, by the way. That's just the default name resharper gave it for me. We're going to call this activity management, I guess would be a good name. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call mine activity management. And so what we're going to do is I'm first of all going to get rid of my end region because I'm going to manually put it in there so you can help follow along, sort of thing. Right, after clear activities now, so on line 38 I think for you, yep, you want to hit enter a couple of times, you get a bit of space, and then now you're going to do the hash symbol and then end region, all one word. There you go. And you don't have to give this one a name. This time it just ends the region that it's like
okay.
The first region it can find above it.
Yeah, cool.
And now you can collapse that region. So that just tidies things up a bit. I'm just going to remove some spaces in my code just because I'm a bit of a neat freak. There we go. And then I'm going to do another region, and I'm going to call this one click handlers. And I'm going to put those clicks in that one.
What are you going to call it? Sorry, click
handlers or clicks, whatever you want to call it. You can call it whatever. It's just basically a container to hold the button clicks that we've made.
And then you're putting it down here.
Yeah, end region. Yeah, that's the one. There you go. Just tidies it up a bit, Also, I just realised, what version of Visual Studio do you have? Like, I know it's 2019, but like, what?
How do I check?
If you go to, is it help? Yeah, help, and then about Visual Studio. Have you got professional? No, you got community. Weird. Okay, because you've got on your screen, I can see you've got this thing where it says like 4 references and 0 references. Like above the public observable collection, you've got 4 references. Mine doesn't have that. I thought that was a professional feature. Weird. Yeah, well. Because I've got that on my, when I work on projects for work, I've got that on my work version. I just don't have it on my home version. I don't even have it on my 2019 version. It's weird. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's just a little thing I noticed. It's not relevant at all. I just thought yeah. Cool. Yeah, so we've added regions to clean up, and the reason we've done that is because we're going to expand this a little bit more. So after the click handlers, I'm going to hit enter a couple of times because I want to so this is, yeah, after click handlers, I'm going to make another region, and I'm going to call this one storage management. Wallace Abbott, hey. Oh, I just realized that's one of those bot accounts. Never mind.
This is where we're going to store all our, well, this is what we're going to put all of our storage code in.
That's the one, yep.
And we're starting with
text files. Yeah. Just standard text files. It's going to be horrible.
Your end region already as well.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, my resharper does it, but we might as well because, like, you know, we can just type inside of the region now. Yeah. There we go. So, yeah, what I'm thinking is we're going to do a public void save text. That's all we're going to call this method. So this is a method that's public. It doesn't have a return type, which is the void, and we're calling it save text. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it save text. I'm probably going to call all of the different storage code like methods save and then something. So the next one will be CSV, so save CSV, and then it'll be save JSON, and so on and so forth. But yeah, save text. So we've got our little save text method here. Now, Streamsmiths, this is up to you. Where do you want to save these files? We can either save them at the root directory of the application, or we can save them in the like app data folder, in the user's app data folder. It's up to you, like where you want to save it. I mean, to be honest, this isn't going to be a long-term solution, so we could just save it in the apps folder.
Just do that.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay then, so in that case, let me just quickly check something. No, statement string path equals and that one. Okay, yeah. Right, that's fine. So what we want to do then, right at the top of our code, I'm personally going to put it above activity list. I'm going to do a public string. I'm going to call this folder path. And because this isn't going to be referenced by the front end at all, we don't have to do a get and set. So instead, I'm just going to do equals and then app domain. So appdomain, yeah, dot current domain, and then dot base directory. Yes, base directory. And that what that's going to do is that folder path is now going to be the path to where the application is on the drive, which I think I've actually got a folder open to it. Yeah, so bin debug. No, yeah, here we go. So it'd be this folder here. So Streamsmiths, I don't know if you want to. Yeah, I was going to say it's probably a good idea if you also put up the folder as well. Do you know where you saved the project to?
Nope.
Lovely.
if I do like a file save as, it should show me, right?
Oh, actually, no. Tell you what, I know a better way of doing this. If you on your Solution Explorer, if you right-click on To-Do List, so the project, so the C on the Solution Explorer on the left.
Thank you. My dinner's just arrived, just so you know. This one.
Just say if you right-click on that, and then if you go to Open Folder and File Explorer, it's near the bottom. It's like 6th or 7th from the bottom. Open Folder and File Explorer. That should just open it right to the folder.
Yeah.
Love it. And then I don't know if it's put you in like the root or something, like where you do see like a bin folder, or so you want to go into bin debug.net 5.0. Yeah, and there you go. So this folder here is where it's going to save.
Okay.
Cool. Right. So yeah, Streamsmiths, you say your food's just arrived.
Yeah, I'll leave it to cool down for a minute anyway, but just letting you know.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Right. Yeah. So we're going to move on to saving text documents. We've got our folder set up. We've also got a string property member, whatever you want to call it, called folder path. That takes us to our applications directory. So that'll be where we save things, basically. Next thing we want to do, I'm just trying to think. No, we don't want to put any packages in yet. That's going to come next. I think the next thing to do is quite literally just to basically write some code to save our activities to a text document. Now, what I'm thinking we're going to do is, I'm going to be honest, this isn't the kind of thing that I'd run through like in the basics. I think this might be like late basics, early intermediates, but we're going to do something. We're going to use something called a using statement using. We're gonna use a using thing. So first of all, if you scroll to the very top of your file, you'll notice these things that say like using system and using system.collections.object model, etc., etc. These things are usings, right? What it is it's pulling in something from outside or from a different different library or something. Not necessarily just a different library, but from a different like area in the code. If we were to set up folders in our project and stick, say, activity in that folder, we would then have another using, which would be using to do app dot and then the folder name. So basically, anytime there's a bit of code that's not in this file or is not in like the same folder as this file, you'll basically be using these using things. Well, using isn't just exclusive to importing code from like up here though. You can use it to, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. You can use it to essentially handle things. Yeah, like I think it might become a bit more clear as we type it. So like, for example, we type the word using and then open bracket. So now we need to tell it what we're using. Right, so we're going to do var because we need to create a variable that we can use. I'm going to call this. Do you know what? Actually, no. Let's not do this. And there's an easy way of doing it. We are going to need to use using though for CSVs. So we will be jumping into using soon, but I think we're going to go for the simple route with the text document. So instead, we're going to use something called a string builder, which is always good fun.
Okay.
And actually, now that I think about it, string builders can also be used for CSV, but we're not going to do the string builder for CSV. We're going to do a string builder for text, and then we're going to use a using for the CSV. Right. So we want to do var, and you just need to give this a name. You can call it string builder, you can call it SB, or builder or something. I'm going to call mine SB because it's nice and short, super simple. So var SB equals new string builder.
That's capital S, isn't it?
Yeah, capital S, capital B. It's not something that's part of like the usings we've already got, so it's gonna want you to import something. So you're gonna need to do an alt enter. There we go. System.text, that's the one. Nice. Cool. So our string builder is what we're going to use to build our text, essentially. I mean, there's the really simple way of doing this where we don't use a string builder, where we just create a string and add to it. Like we would add each activity to it manually. You can do that. It's not very clean. It doesn't look very nice. It's a bit hard to follow because you're going to have to manually well, you can loop through the list of activities, but you're still going to have to add to the string. Whereas with a string builder, it's a bit cleaner. It's a bit nicer to work with, and it's easier to understand. If I think, like personally, I find it's easier to understand. So the next thing we want to do, we've got a string builder. We now want to loop through our activity list. So my Visual Studio 2020 has already given me the correct suggestion, but we're going to do a for each, and then open bracket, and then var, and then I'm going to call mine A because we want to reference each object in our list. So var A in activity list. What this is saying is we're going to loop through activity list, and for each A in activity list, we do what's inside the for each. I think did we cover for eaches already? No, I don't think we did. No, we haven't. We haven't covered for eaches yet, I don't think. That's cool. Okay. I mean, we did. I covered it on a stream a couple of weeks ago, but on this app we haven't, have we?
No.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're probably eating, aren't you?
No, I'm not started yet. I'm not yet. I'll let you
Okay.
know. I'm gonna wait a few minutes, but I am to keep staring at it. So
fair enough. Right. So for each A in activity list, A is each activity in activity list, and A references the activity we're on during the for loop. Right. We now want to do SB dot append. Now, what we need to do is we essentially need a way of representing our activity, but in string form as like a piece of text. I mean, there's a really easy way of doing this. Inside the append, so inside the brackets, we can just do an exclamation mark not exclamation mark, sorry, I'm being stupid. A dollar symbol. Where'd I get exclamation mark from? If you type dollar symbol and then 2 double quotes, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do something called string interpolation. It's a lovely, fancy little feature that is surprisingly not used that much throughout different areas of programming. Like, I don't think there's a version of, like, string interpolation. There isn't a string interpolation kind of thing for C++, I don't think. I also don't think there is for Java. Which kind of sucks. Anyway, yeah, so string interpolation. The dollar symbol indicates this is going to be an interpolated string, and all it means, what string interpolation is it just means we can basically just put variables inside the string by giving it its name, essentially. So that's what we're going to do. We need to do an open squiggly bracket. That indicates that we're going to put a variable in there. And then if you type, what do we call it? A. So my activity is called A. So A dot, and then let's do ID dot toString. Okay, my resharp is telling me we don't need to do the .toString. Are we sure about this? Do we not need to do it? What can it be simplified with? Okay, apparently we don't need the toString, so you can get rid of the toString. Apparently a.id should be fine. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, and then you want to do a closing squiggly bracket. I think you've already done that, haven't you, Streamsmiths?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool. And then you want to, after the squiggly bracket...
Did I save something as ID, capital letters, both? It seems to like that, but not
yeah, I think you did, yeah, you did it with 2 capitals. That's fine, it doesn't matter, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after the squiggly bracket, but still inside the quote, we now need a way of distinguishing between 2 different pieces of data. Not 2 different activities, this is still the same activity, but 2 different pieces of data. For example, it's ID, the description, and whether it's been completed. I personally like to use pipes. So that's the vertical bar, which you can use get by holding shift and pressing, for people in the UK, pressing the symbol, the backslash symbol next to the Z key on the keyboard. I don't know what it is in US on US keyboard personally. No, I think it's in a different place. But yeah, hey Vindex, welcome back. But yeah, so I like to use the pipe to split data up. Yeah, and each activity is going to be its own line as well. So that's cool. Right, now we've done the pipe, we now want to do a squiggly bracket, and then inside the squiggly bracket, we type a.activity description. And then close off the squiggly bracket, which I think you've already done, so that's good. And then another pipe. By the way, you can use whatever symbol you want to differentiate between the objects. It's as long as it's unique and it isn't used. Like, if you think you might use pipes in your descriptions, don't use a pipe. Basically, use anything you know you're never going to use. For me, it's pipe. I don't tend to use pipes other than on like my Twitch titles and in code. That's it. Another thing I like to use as well is the tilde symbol, which is the little wavy symbol. For the people in the UK, it's the symbol that's sort of the hash, above the hash symbol. So it's like the same key, you just hold shift and press the hash symbol, and that's a tilde. That's another one I like to use as well. Sorry?
Why don't you use it if you use it in your description?
Because if you use it in your description, then it will appear in the string itself. So basically, it will split the description at that pipe, if that makes sense. So it's the equivalent of, so if you look at my screen, it's the equivalent of saying, like, you know, these 2 pipes here that I've got here selected, those are the pipes we put in the code. But then in my description, I've gone, this is a task, I need to do it. Now you see there's 3 pipes, you see? This is how the code will read it. It will see this, and even though this first and last pipe are the ones that we put in our code, it's actually going to split it like this. It will do this as a task, and then it won't do I need to do it, because it will register this middle pipe as the one, it will think that's the one we put here.
Okay.
Make sense?
Kind of.
Okay.
I don't understand how that's described. Why is it all of a sudden gone to describe? Like in the description, how's that changed to a description?
Oh, because it's cut it. So like in the text box, I typed this is a task, and then the pipe, I need to do it, right? Whereas when it saves it, it's only going to save this is a task because of that pipe. It's only going to go as far as that pipe. Or rather, I should say, when we load it. When we load it, it's only going to load this is a task. And it's also going to throw an error because it's going to try and read I need to do it as a Boolean, which it can't.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so basically, you want to make sure that the symbol you use is never going to be used in the description. There is a way around that. I cannot really. It kind of, in a CSV file, there is a way around this. Because you don't need to use pipes, you don't need to use the separators in a CSV. Well, you do, but typically speaking, separating a CSV is a comma, which you might already be thinking, well, surely you'll use a comma in the description. Yes, that's true, and there is a workaround for CSV files, and we'll get to that. But in terms of saving it as raw text, you want to make sure the symbol you use to split is 100% unique. Anyway, so after our pipe there, you want to do another pair of squiggly brackets. I see you've already done that, so you're already ahead of the curve. Love it. And then you just want to do a dot is completed. And then just also, to make this easier, because we're saving it as text, it won't do this automatically, I don't believe. But if before the A, could you do a pair of regular brackets and just type int, int? Really, you can't cast it as an int? Oh, never mind. What? When did that change?
Are you testing now, or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, yes. I can tell you what. If you let's leave it, it might still work. Yeah, if we leave it as is completed, that might still work. Anyway, at the end of our line, after all of that, outside the quotes, outside the final bracket, you want to do a semicolon, and we've now appended it. Oh, actually, not quite. I've just remembered we actually do want to, like I said earlier, each activity needs to be on its own line. There's two ways of doing this. Let me just test something. End of the current end of the current. Hold on, one sec. Followed by the default. Oh, okay, yeah. So what you want to do is earlier on when we typed SB append, if you just change it to SB append line, that should then add a new line at the end of it. We could have added a new line manually, but append line, because I wasn't sure if append line added a new line at the start or the end, but it's all good. Hey, it's 3 into. How do you say your name, by the way? How you doing? What are we coding? So we're working on a to-do app. So at the minute, if I just run this, we've got this really simple to-do app. Because Streamsmiths, who's also in the call with me, he's learning to code. And so I figured one good way of learning to code is to just make something. And we've decided we're going to make a to-do app. And so all we've got so far is this really simple to-do list. Super simple. But, you know, it's a nice little start. It's a good little beginner thing to jump into. And so I'm running him for it. Endcraft. Oh, that makes sense. It's Endcraft. Yeah. Good shout. Yeah. Do you know what? That's really embarrassing because I used to use LeetSpeak as part of my my name for years. Anyway, yeah. So that's what we're working on. We're working on a to-do app. And specifically today, the plan is to work on storage. So different storage methods. We're currently coding up a way of saving our activities, our to-do list, as text files, which is really inefficient, and don't use this. This is just, I'm just running through the basic ways of doing things. I really wouldn't recommend anyone save as a text file. We're going to be jumping into CSV next. I also wouldn't recommend people save as CSV. Not really. But yeah, we're running through some really different ways of saving things, going from what I would consider the simplest, which is text documents, all the way up to the not the most complex, but as complex as we need it to be for this, which is going to be SQL. So we've already got a SQL server, which is great, and we'll be jumping into that a bit later on. But yeah, for now, we've now got our string builder, which is what we're using to create our text that we're going to save to a file. We're looping through our activity list, our to-do list, and then for each item in our activity list, we're adding to our string builder, we're adding a line, and that line is equal to the ID of the activity, followed by a pipe, followed by the description of the activity, followed by a pipe, followed by whether or not it's completed. And that will be one line for each activity. That is so far so good. Now we need to save it. Hey, thanks for following as well. Appreciate that. Right, Streamsmiths, have you are you still good? We all good?
Yep.
Cool. I just wanted to make sure. Right. So now we want to save it. So what we're going to do is we're going to type the word file with a capital F. You're going to need to do it with a capital F because don't do that one. Hit escape. For anyone wondering, I can see Streamsmiths' screen. There we go. Now if you just do Alt Enter, I'm wondering if it's going to suggest using system.io. That's the one. Okay, cool. So also a reason why I didn't have to do what Streamsmiths just did, and why mine automatically imported it, is because I've got a piece of software called Resharper. I actually code for a living. It's my job, so I've been using it for 4 years now. Resharper. It's absolutely amazing piece of software, but obviously Streamsmiths is really new to this, and so it's also not cheap. Yeah, so. He's obviously not got it. I think you're considering it, but fair enough if you want to take your time and properly think about it. That's cool. But anyway, because of that, some things happen automatically for me. They don't for Streamsmiths. So just now when I told Streamsmiths to hit escape, is because his Visual Studio wanted to use something else other than file. It wanted to use, I think it was file. File format exception or something, or it was something weird. But anyway.
Oh no, I won't do it now because I've got that.
No, it won't do it now. That's right. It's
is that how you'd explain it? That you've got it installed?
No.
What would you say?
Imported. No. Yeah, import. I'd say imported would be the best terminology. Yeah. Are we coding or plumbing? Well, yeah, well, sometimes when you're working with pipes, it does seem like we're plumbing. I guess you could say technically coding is a bit like plumbing because you're plumbing the insides. You're routing all the piping and stuff. Yes, you could also say it's electrical engineering with the wiring. Anyway, right. So file dot, and then we want to do append. Is it append? No, is it? No, it's write. I'm being an idiot. It's file dot write. All text. Yeah, and then what we need to do is we need to give it a path. Now, before we jump ahead, I know earlier we created our folder path variable. We're not going to use that just yet. We are going to use it to determine where our file is saved, but we need to give it a bit more than just folder path, because folder path is a folder and not a file. Because what we need to do here is write all text is expecting a folder path, a target file, a folder path, a file path. It's expecting the path to a specific file that it can save to. The file doesn't have to exist. It's not going to exist. We're going to create a new file, but it's expecting a file path, right?
Yep.
Cool. Lovely. And there's a really easy way of combining folders and file paths, because you might, if anyone who's ever copied a file path before, it's got all those horrible backslashes on code. When you're typing code, backslashes don't work as backslashes in text. When you type a bit of text and you do a backslash, it's not going to be a backslash. It's what's called an escape character, and it's what allows you to use quotes within strings and things like this. So a backslash on its own is going to break things. You can do 2 backslashes and that will escape the backslash, and then it will show that backslash. But there's really annoying nightmare. There's a really easy way of doing this. All we need to do is type the word path. Yep, so for you it's that second option, the one with the capital P. Yeah, there you go. Path dot and then combine, COMBINE. and then do a pair of open brackets, pair of brackets, and inside the brackets, this is where we need to put the paths that we want to combine. This will automatically do the slashes for us. We don't have to do that. All we have to do is type folder path, comma, and then a pair of empty quotes, and inside these empty quotes is where we put the file name. On my phone was following up to the point where you said delete system32, now what? Vindex, you've jumped ahead. We haven't got to that point yet. Right, yes, so comma, double quotes, and inside the double quotes, we're just going to type the name that we want to call it. So we can just call it activities or file, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call mine activities.txt. There we go. So that's our path.combine. So now you can actually just jump forward 2 characters to between the 2 closed brackets. Yeah, and now between those 2 closed brackets we need to type comma. And now this is what we need to put here is what we're saving to the file. So if we do sb.toString, that there, and then a pair of brackets. I forget that you don't that doesn't happen automatically for you. There we go. Yes, so sb.toString will convert what we've added to our string builder. So all of these append lines that we've added, it will convert it into a string, a piece of text. So that's that. Now, it's all well and good us creating the save text method. It just doesn't get used anywhere at the minute. Like, we've written it, but it doesn't get called anywhere. So what do you say we go about fixing that?
Yeah.
Cool. So you want to head to the front end now, so the Xaml file. And in the code bit at the bottom, scroll all the way to the top, right to the very top. And you've got this big blue block of text, right? After the word window at the top, you've got this, like, all these lines. You just want to add a new line in the middle there somewhere. I'm going to do mine after MC ignorable equals D, just because it's a nice, easy place to put something. And I'm going to type here on, no, not on, it's, sorry, I'm going to type closing. I keep forgetting, like, the on part is Blazor. It's web-based. Right, so we've got closing, and you're just going to, yeah, if you hit tab right now, it should, yeah, so you want to now hit enter to create a new event handler. Okay, so now if you go to your backend, you should have a window underscore closing event handler. Yeah, it's right at the bottom there. That's great. That's exactly what we want. Mine's got something extra in it. I'm just going to get rid of that. There we go. So there, it's right at the bottom. Yeah, line 78 onwards. So for me, it's 76 onwards. We've got our on closing event. So this is what runs when you hit the X button, but before it's actually closed. It's after you've hit the X in the top right to close the window, but before it's actually closed, right? So there's a bit of code that can run in between. It's where you can save stuff, which is what we're going to do. All we need to type here is the words save text, open close bracket, semicolon, boom, sorted. That is literally it. And now we can give it a run and see if it works. It might not, it might break, but the only way of knowing is if we try it. This still needs doing. This, by the way, that isn't something that I'm not saying, oh, we need to do this. I'm, you know.
Yeah.
Example to do stuff. This needs doing. This was done yesterday. Complete.
Saved it. It won't reopen it with that, will it? Sorry, I'm getting ahead of you.
No, it won't. It won't. Did it save it for you, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, I hit the X.
All I can see is computer code.
If we go into activities. Oh, okay, so this is interesting. So it didn't actually save my final one. Interesting. So I had uh-oh written in there for the final one. So that's really weird. So this is the activities file, right? They won't get loaded in. You're right, Streamsmiths, you're right. Looked up flights to Madrid. I didn't realize flights were so cheap. What do you mean, Index? Are they? Interesting. I think I might know why it doesn't actually.
Yeah, I reckon it's because it's still as if you were typing it. It's not saved it as a line.
That's it.
That makes sense.
I think you're spot on there. You're absolutely right. And there's a way to fix that. Is it that one? I think it's that. Right. Round trip for £30 to go to Madrid. Jesus Christ. That's cheap.
Because Russia's coming.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Now we're closed and just check. Okay, yeah, okay, that fixed it. Right, just to fix the problem with the activities not saving. By the way, did your activities save? Was it just the last one that didn't save? The last one's like, okay, cool, that's cool. In which case, I don't need this bit. I can get rid of that. I mean, I'm gonna keep it. We'll put it there anyway. This is something I added earlier that it turns out isn't necessary, but I forgot to mention it in the fixing process that we went through earlier. So you just want to type mode equals two-way. So in our text box for each row, each to-do activity, we have a text box that holds the description that we're typing in. So that was where I was typing, this is a task, and oh, this was done yesterday. That box, this one here, we're using binding to bind to activity description. And I've got mode two-way on, which just means that the binding works both ways. So if it changes on either end, it should update on the other end, right? You can do one way, which means that you can, if we were to type in the text box, although it would change in the text box, it wouldn't change in the code, right? So the next time you were to like refresh it or whatever, the box, it would update, it would go back to the way it was before. That's one way binding. Two-way, on the other hand, is where your change on either end modifies the other end. But you also want to do an update source trigger equals property change, which I'm assuming you've already done. Did you type that? Yeah. And that makes it so that because I think the way it was set up before was Streamsmiths was right. I think the back-end code activity description was only updating when you clicked off of the text box, right? You type into the text box, but it wouldn't actually update the back end until you clicked off it. Property change, on the other hand, updates it every time something's changed. So the moment you type a key, get updates in the back end. Type another key, update in the back end. Type another key, update in the back end. It's not very efficient. I'll tell you that. But to be fair, in a beginner to do app, doesn't make a difference. It does not matter. Hang on, I just want to see. I just want to see this. Really.
Let me myself whilst I eat quickly.
Oh my god! Please tell me you've seen what I've written next then.
No, I didn't look. 2 seconds.
Oh. Do you like that?
I do. I'm just going to mute myself whilst I eat some food quickly.
Okay, but in the meantime, then I'm going to get us set up for saving CSVs. Okay. I was going to say I'll go a bit slower because I know you're eating, so you know. But yeah, that's all right. What we're going to do is we're going to start off by doing a public void. We're going to make a new method. This is to save CSV file. So public void save CSV. Again, you can call these whatever you want. I am using it save CSV. We're changing the Sea of Thieves. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so save CSV. So that's got our little method set up. And I'm also just going to add it into our main window closing event handler. Save CSV. So that's just so then when we close it, it will call that method, even though we haven't got anything in there yet. Just there we go. By the way, Streamsmiths, you want the squiggly brackets as well for save CSV. not a semicolon, squiggly brackets. All right, just while Streamsmiths is having a munch, I'm also going to get us set up to actually be able to use what I was talking about earlier, the whole using thing. What we're going to use is we're going to use something from a package, a Nuget package. I think I might have mentioned these last time, but I don't think we actually did anything with it. I don't even think I got this far in like using it. But to get to this screen where you can download other people's libraries, which is what we're going to use. We're going to use other people's libraries because that's always the best thing to do. At the end of the day, if it's been made, why not use it, right? So yeah, so to get to it, you just want to go to your Solution Explorer and you want to find the project that you're working with. So you've got your solution, which is the top level thing that says solution. I'm just going to close what just popped up there. There we go. It says solution, and it's like got a little like box with the Visual Studio logo. Underneath you got the to do. You got like the project, which has like a box with C# in it, C hashtag in it. You just want to right click on that line, go to Manage Nuget Packages. It's like a third of the way down, I think, and you'll get this Nuget thing appear where you got this list of things. It's all great, wonderful stuff. I am just going through. I don't see what we're going to be using. I mean, I see something we're going to use, but not just yet. I've seen something we're going to use for visual for SQL. Okay, yeah. What we want to do is inside the search box at the top, we're going to type CSV helper, all one word, and it's going to give us a list of things. The top one should be something called CSV helper with a tick by Josh Close, 75 million downloads, with like a green comma. We're going to grab that. The way you do that is you can click on it. There's two ways of doing it. You click on it and you can, on the right hand side, you get this box appear that has like a bunch of details. You can hit install on the right hand side, or when you're hovering over that row, you get a little down arrow on the right hand side of the row. I'm going to hit the down arrow, or you can hit install, either or. It's going to pop up this box saying, are you sure you want to install it? Something you might know if you happen to use larger packages is this might end up having like, although you're only installing one package, it might end up installing like 10, and then it might have like another 20 dependencies, in which case you end up installing like 20 odd Nuget packages. Oh, we've got to hit accept apparently. I've not had to do that before. Interesting. You might not have had to actually, Streamsmiths, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so there might be occasions where you're installing one of these Nuget packages and you end up like downloading like 10 packages. You don't need to worry about those. It's just because they have dependencies that rely on additional packages. Now that we've got our CSV helper, we're going to close this Nuget tab that's appeared. We are going to put it back up a bit later on for JSON and for SQL, but for now we can close it. So now that we've done that, we've got a CSV helper Nuget package or code library installed, right? So now we're actually going to need to make use of it, and that's where we get to this using thing I was on about earlier. So Streamsmiths, so you, yeah, okay, you're already ahead of us, nice. Yep, so using, not user, using, yep, and then open bracket, var, sorry.
I'm back.
Oh, welcome back. So var inside the brackets, we're going to type, because we're going to use, like I said earlier, a variable. We're going to use a variable, and then you want to give this a name, this variable name. I'm just going to call it CSV, just because it's nice and simple. You can call it CSV helper, CSV builder, whatever you want to call it, but I'm calling mine CSV equals, and then new, I think, CSV helper, is that CSV writer? Is it? Yeah. Okay, so you want to do new CSV writer. So not helper, but writer.
Mine's only coming up with helper.
Yeah, but if you just type writer and then open and close bracket, and then do an alt enter when you're hovered over CSV writer, it should ask if you want to use, yeah, using CSV helper. There you go. Right, so we're getting an error because it's actually expecting something to be handed in, and that's fine. What we need to do is we need to make use of a text writer class. So hang on a sec. Hold on a second. Okay. Character streams to encoding. Okay, right, that's fine. What we're going to do then. Sec. I will go through this in a second. I'm just making sure it's going to work for us. And then okay. Yeah, right. That's fine. So what I've done here is this CSV writer. It requires essentially what's called a stream to write to. I don't really want to get into what streams are. Like, I think the best way of explaining it is it's basically a stream of data from basically a stream of data. We can use something called a stream writer. So I've done a using var sw equals new stream writer. So stream writer creates a stream writer, I guess. It creates something that will allow us to write to a stream. And it takes in a path, a file path. It takes in a couple of things. There's a bunch of different overloads. Overloads are just things where you can have something have the same. You can use the same method, but pass in different things to it, basically. But yeah, StreamWriter takes in a path. And I've done the path.combine thing again to, using folder and activities.csv as my string. So that's the path that we're passing into our stream writer. Now, the only problem is I'm not sure if that's going to have an issue if it doesn't exist. It might do. We'll have to wait and see. If not, though, that's we can play with that later if that's the issue. But that's created a stream writer, like I said, which is going to allow us to write to a stream. The stream being, I guess, the data in the activities.csv file we're making. And then what we can do is we can pass that stream writer, so I call mine SW, into CSV writer. So if I type SW into the brackets of CSV writer, that's going to accept that, and then I can do comma because it's not over yet. The CSV writer wants a configuration, a CSV configuration. So we're going to do that. And it's actually really simple. Is that going to play ball with us? Right, why is that having a hissy fit? Hang on a second. Really? Does it not? It's having a hissy fit. Whatever. What I'm going to do here is the CSV writer also wants what's called a CSV configuration, because I mentioned earlier that CSV files typically tend to use commas. It's not always the case, but CSV files are a little bit more, I guess, not necessarily system dependent, but there are certain settings you can configure in on your computer, in your settings, your Windows settings, to manipulate what things are what's used within a CSV. So what separator you use within a CSV. It's typically, like I said earlier, typically it's a comma. You can change that in your Windows settings. And so because of that, we actually need to pass that data down through to the CSV writer. So I've done, after my SW in CSV writer, I've done a comma, new CSV configuration with a capital C for both CSV and configuration, but lowercase SV. And then open brackets, culture info with a capital C and a capital I dot current culture. So that will use my system's culture, which is the United Kingdom. So it uses the United Kingdom's data, regional data, as the CSV configuration. So it knows that whatever I've got in my settings, my region settings, it's going to use those. So a little bit of a nightmare to get it set up, but we're all good. We're all good. So how are things going? No. So if you do a Alt Enter on CSV configuration, I think it needs to be imported. Yeah, there you go. Using that, and then you'll also need to do it for culture info as well. There you go. Right. Okay, so the next thing you want to do, by the way, is get rid of the final bracket and the very first bracket at the beginning of the line. There we go, because this is just a new way of doing things, and then stick a semicolon on the end. So now we should have a using var SW and a using var CSV. So CSV is what we're going to use to actually save our file, because we should be able to write to this. Yeah, we can do like write fields and write headers and stuff. Okay, hey Joe, how you doing? What is all this for? So Streamsmiths, who I'm in a call with, is learning to code, and so I figured we'd go through and make a really simple to-do app, which we've done. If I just run this, here we go. So we've got this little to-do app here. It's really simplistic, but it works. Hit the little plus button, we get these lines appear. You can type in these boxes. Hit the completed button. Bosh. There we go. So it's super simplistic, but it's a good little thing to just sink your teeth into to learn to code. Hopefully, I hope Streamsmiths you're learning stuff, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to do a little test at the end to see what you've taken on. But yeah, so last Monday we worked on actually getting the app working. Today we're working on storage, so actually having it save the stuff you type in. We've gone through a text, like saving as a text document. Which is this save text bit here, where we create a string builder, which will allow us to join a bunch of different strings. We loop through our list, and we say for each activity in our activity list, add to our little string builder a new line, and that line should be equal to the ID of the activity, which you don't see on the tool that's in the background, followed by the description, which is what you type, and then the is completed property here is the tick box. And then we write that to a file called activities.txt, and actually if I load this up here, I mean it's blank at the minute because I ended up clearing the list before I closed it, but it would save in there, and that works. We don't want to do that long term though. We're definitely not doing that. I'm messing with Blender. I've locked up my PC. Ooh, that's not good. Blender's powerful. You don't want to do something you're not too familiar with, I guess.
What is Blender?
Yeah, you use it for like 3D modeling and stuff.
Okay, cool.
It's really cool, but also like for someone like me who's like sucks at making 3D models, it's kind of complex, it's kind of complicated, but you know, I do struggle with it a bit. It's mainly just like I'll tell you what, Blender's something I really struggle to learn because all of the old like tutorials are old and out of date, and none of the shortcuts work, and like none of the buttons are in the same place. Bloody nightmare. That's a piece of software that changes every year. Such a nightmare. Anyway, yeah, so we saved as text document, and that was what we did already earlier on. Now we're saving as a CSV, which we're also not going to be using long term. There's 5 different storage methods we're going to go through, like each of them slightly better than the last in my opinion, and we're going to end on SQL Server, which is like an actual database. But yeah, for now we're working on CSV. So we've got our Stream Writer, which we don't have to worry about anymore because we passed it into our CSV Writer, which we are going to use. So just watch tutorials from 2.8 and above. UI is very similar. I don't know. When was 2.8 released? Right, so we got our CSV. So we want to do CSV. Well, I mean, we don't. I'm just going to type this so I can get an idea as to what we're looking at. CSV dot. So we've got write header and stuff. That's probably what we want to do. Maybe not. Records. Oh, that could work. Tell you what, I just want to test something. I'm not sure this is actually going to work. It might do. Yo, okay, that works. Sweet, we're gonna do that. Right. So in our CSV save CSV code method, we're after our using var CSV line, we're going to do csv.write records, and then open close bracket, and inside the brackets activity list, as we called it up above, our observable collection activity list. followed by a semicolon at the end, and boom, that is literally going to save it for us. See, this is how easy it is to save a CSV with the CSV helper library. I see 2017. Oh, okay. Maybe it's the shortcuts that are different then, because I'm pretty sure, like, I tried following a tutorial on how to make a astronaut. I wanted to make a really simplistic looking astronaut, and this was only like 2020, I think it was. Vindex, are you still here? If so, do you remember when we did our game jam, and I made that 2D little game where you were on that world, and I had like voice lines and everything for the first world? It was when we did that. It was after that I tried learning Blender to make a 3D version of it. I want to make a little 3D astronaut, but the tutorial I followed was... It was definitely like later than 2017, the tutorial I followed. I remember there was a specific point, like 20 minutes into the tutorial, where he did a keybind and it didn't work for me. It did a completely different thing. I was like, oh well, this is where I have to stop. I've just seen your what you've typed. Oh. Anyway, so that saves the CSV. That is a bit of a nightmare when you have to write it yourself and you're not using a CSV helper library. Just because you have to... Well, it's not really, I guess. It's not too much of a nightmare. You can do it the same way we did save text. You could literally just replace the pipes with commas and then replace the .txt with .csv. That would work. That would be a CSV writer then. But, I mean... There are other ways of doing it, proper ways of doing it that are a bit more robust, but they're a little bit more complicated. This, fortunately though, like I said, this CSV writer, the CSV helper Nuget package does it all for us. And this is the blessing that is Nuget packages. It's so nice to just be able to take someone else's work and... No, it's just nice to be able to use something that already exists, you know, a library that already exists.
I have a question.
Anyway, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
At the moment, we're writing the data, but we're not reading from the data. Are you doing that specifically, waiting until we've like gone into SQL?
No, I hadn't actually considered it, but that's a good shout. We should do that, and we should do that now actually, because the way that we're going to be saving in JSON is slightly different. Well. It's kind of a combination where we're going to use a library to create our JSON string, our text, because JSON's is another text format. It's a little bit more structured than CSV files, and because of that, we can actually it's going to be so much more simpler. We can do it all in one line if we wanted to. We'll do it in two, but we can do it in one if we wanted to. Because we don't have to do any of the stream writers or CSV writer. It's just very simple. We could do a file that write all text and then give it a path, and then for the content we would do JSON convert dot serialize object, and we'd pass in our activity list, and that is it. That's literally all we do. That is the whole JSON saving. Super simple. Honestly, it makes sense why so many developers use JSON, because it is so simple to work with, and it's really good. It's just like what we're using, like what we're going to use a SQL Server database basically, because we're ramping upwards, and I feel like that's a good place to stop at. But anyway, yeah. So we are actually going to read though. We need to read the data in, because yeah, like I said, the way we handle JSON, the way we're going to handle JSON is different from CSV and text. Reading CSV and text in is going to be exactly the same. Well, actually no, our CSV helper can do the reading. Anyway, either way, whatever, we need to read data. So underneath the save text method that we made before, so between save text and save CSV, I'm going to make a new method. I'm going to call this public void read text. And I think, to be honest, reading the text is going to be a little bit more... Well... No, it's just different order. It's fine. We're going to do this. So, inside this read text method, we're going to do var, I guess, text. What we're going to do is we're creating a string variable called... I'm going to call mine text. I love how my Visual Studio has already given me the suggestion that I'm going to do. But essentially, we just need to do equals file.readAllText. So earlier on, we did file.writeAllText. We're now doing file.readAllText. And actually, no, we're not. We're not. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. It's actually read all lines. Yeah, my bad. We want to do read all lines because this will then actually give us a string array where each item in the array, an array is basically just a list. It's just a little bit more memory efficient. But there's less features. You can't do as many things on an array as you can a list. Yeah, it's going to give us a string array where each element, each object in the array is an activity, right? Like I said earlier, each line in our text document is an activity, and this splits up each line to be its own separate string in an array. Anyway, so we've got read all lines. Dot read all lines, and then we've got to do brackets and then path.combine. So exactly as we did above, we might as well copy the path.combine that we did in the save text because it's the same file. So we want to copy it, including the activities.txt. So once we've done that, we can paste that into read all lines, and that's going to read all of the lines from that text file. Now,
2 seconds. Why? But you've got 2 closed brackets. Where's the first? Got 1 open bracket here. Where's the other one?
You didn't copy the second one, did you? Because you got the read all lines bracket and then the combine bracket.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Here you go. Also, why is your if your thingamajig, your var, you've got var text dot string, and then why have you got that?
Because yours is showing that.
Oh, you mean this? No, that's just yeah, no, that's I think that's my resharper telling me what type this variable is. That's all. Okay. It's just telling me it's going to be a string array.
Why am I getting all of these?
Oh, so it's because you're running it. If you stop it, if you hit the stop, like if you just close it, it'll that won't happen. There you go. The green line should disappear. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we've got our text variable here, which is a string array, which contains all of the lines within activity.txt. Spot on. What we're going to do now is we need to convert those lines into actual activities, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do for each var t in text. That's what I'm going to do. So for each, and then open close brackets, and then inside the brackets var t in text. So we're looping through the text array, and for each element in it, we're referencing each element as t. And inside our for each loop that we've done, so after the brackets, you can do squiggly brackets. And inside the squiggly brackets, this is going to be what we run like earlier on when we did the for each a an activity list. We're now doing it for text instead, with t being a line. So what we're going to do is, we know earlier on we used pipes to split our data up in our text document. Now, when we pulled the text into our code from the text document, we now need to split each line up by those pipes, right? Cool. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do var l. So this is within the for loop. We're going to do var l, or line, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call mine l, equals t dot split. Visual Studio is too clever. It had already suggested it. But yeah, you want to do t dot split, and then inside the brackets for split, because split is a method, you've got to put the brackets. You want to do double quotes, and inside the double quotes, the pipe symbol, and then finish off that line with a semicolon. And what that's done is L is now another array. It's another string array, but this time it's the line, but split up by the pipes. So the first element in the array is the ID. The second element in the array is our description. The third element in the array is the completed part, right? Making sense so far?
Kind of, yeah. I know that
cool.
We're referring to the last one, and that's it, kind of splitting it up.
Say that again, sorry?
We're referring to the last one and splitting it up. into like you saying, that's where we put the pipes. So we've split the three up now.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So L is our three individual kinds of, like, you know, the ID, description, and the completed like flag. So now that we've done that, we actually now need to create a new activity object. So I'm going to do var a equals new activity. There we go. And then we're going to do something. I'll wait for you to finish what you're doing. We're going to do something that we haven't done before. Instead of doing the usually here to create a new activity, you'd have to do the open and close brackets followed by a semicolon. We're not going to do that. We're instead going to use squiggly brackets, and I'm going to hit enter to put that on a new line. And what you can do is you can actually modify the properties of this object without going through the constructor. So because we did the get set stuff, we can do this. This is what allows us to do this, the get set that we put in activities. But we're going to do id equals id equals GUID dot parse, P-A-R-S-E, open and close brackets, and inside the brackets you want to type L and then square bracket 0 and then close square bracket. So what that's doing is we're saying we want to get the object at location 0 from the L array. So that's the first thing in the L array, which we know is our line, which is going to be, we know it's the ID. We know it's our ID because we saved it as our ID, but we're telling the code we want to grab that first thing and we're sticking it into this GUID.parse. And we know it's a GUID because we know the ID data type is a GUID, and it saved it as a GUID string. But the thing is, it saved it as a string, as text, and GUID doesn't just accept text. You have to parse it. It has to, like, you have to convert it, essentially. That's what parse does. Converts the string, yeah, so if you hover over parse, it tells you converts the string representation of a GUID to the equivalent GUID structure. That was that.
It's actually making sense.
It's making sense, yeah?
Yep.
Love it. Right, the next line we want to do is activity description. What I love is it does. Oh, sorry. I was going to say yours doesn't tell you, like, it doesn't suggest it. But if you, sorry, I forgot. At the end of the GUID parse line, you want to put a comma, like right at the end. There we go. And then if you get rid of activity description for me, it should suggest it. Like if you get rid of all of it and then type A, yeah, there you go. Activity description equals, and then L square bracket 1 close square bracket. Now we're saying, okay, we want to grab the second thing on the list, or at index 1, right, which is already a string, and activity description is already a string, so we don't need to convert this one. We can just leave that line as it is. You're right. Did you want to look at the activities file?
I wanted to try kind of getting a little bit of ahead. No, carry on.
Okay. I mean, it's already kind of told you what the next thing is. Do you see, like, the box above what you're typing, and you've got, like, the highlighted text? Yeah. Do you see the bit of text that stands out in that?
Is completed.
Is completed. That's what we're doing next. So is completed. Now, the thing is, the Boolean was saved as a true or false, and I do believe you can convert from true and false to a Boolean. It's just not something it does automatically. So you'll notice there, Streamsmiths, you're getting an error. And that's because we need to do the same thing we did with the GUID, but instead of GUID, it's bool dot parse, and then it's L open bracket 2 close bracket, and that will then parse the third object in the array as a Boolean. There we go. Lovely stuff. Cool. Also, did you type 1 square bracket 2, or was that an L square bracket 2?
1.
It's got to be an L. There we go. Cool. Lovely. So we've now got our activity. All you want to do is go on the next line under that. You've got a squiggly bracket. At the end, after the squiggly bracket, you just want to do a semicolon. And we create an activity. So now var A is an activity, and it's got the data from the text document. We just need to add it to our list, which is Maybe next week we should get you set up with Visual Studio 2022, because this is just typing it for me. We want to do activity list dot add, and then inside the brackets for add, because add is a method, so you got to put the brackets in. Inside the brackets, you just type A, because that's our activity, followed by a semicolon at the end. Now that is 100% set up to read text, assuming we call read text. We're not at the minute, so
we got to do that from open window or start application.
So we should be able to just do it from main window at the top. So in on for me line 24, I don't know if it is for you, I think it's 23 for you. You've got main window, we've got our initialized component, and this dot data context equals this. Under this dot data context equals this, I've just done enter twice there because I'm going to have a space between it. You just need to type is it read text we did? Yeah, read text, open and close bracket, followed by a semicolon, and that should read the text. So let's just check. What have I got in my text document? A bunch of rubbish. Love it. If you run, what have you got? So it won't read from the CSV, it'll read from the text document. What, have you got any data in there? Okay, so if you run it now, it should be empty. And then yeah, if you cool. And now if you run it again, it should using the, oh yeah, there we go. I was gonna say I'm just using Streamsmiths as a guinea pig. If we run it, it should appear with a bunch of gobbledygook. Yay! We got it reading from a text document. Sick. And now we're going to do the same but with CSV.
Yeah. That's cool.
Fortunately, CSV should be a bit easier because we've got the library. But in our storage management region, at the bottom, we have our save CSV code. And under that, I'm doing a public void read CSV.
Where am I? What I've built myself.
Sorry?
Oh, is it it?
Yeah, it's just there, yeah. So under that, I've made a new method called public void read CSV. And then I'm just going to quickly check something. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Right. So what we want to do is we want to do using var sr equals new stream reader, because much like our CSV writer, our CSV reader also needs a stream something. CSV writer needed a stream writer, CSV reader needs a stream reader, and okay, yeah. Fortunately, stream reader, much like the stream writer, we can just pass in the same path.combine followed by folder path and activities.csv, so we can just copy what we had from up above. And then just semicolon on the end. Yeah, there you go. Nice one. So that's our stream reader. And then we're going to do using var CSV equals new CSV reader. We pass in our SR. Now we are also going to need to do the exact same thing we did before with the CSV configuration. So I'm just going to copy the same thing from above again. So we've got SR, comma, new CSV configuration, open and close brackets. Within those brackets, culture info dot current culture. So that's what we want there. There we go. That's got our CSV reader set up. Now, I just want to check something. CSV read. So, is that one? So I'm just trying to figure out exactly how we want to go about doing this. Get through. Okay, that's the one. Right. Okay, that's fine. What we want to do then is we want to do... This might require a little bit of trial and error because there might be something we have to do, but if we do while, then open bracket, and then csv dot read. Oh god, no, I'm butchering this thing on. There we go. Yeah, so while and then open bracket csv dot read and then open and close bracket, and followed by a second close bracket for the while loop, and then you want to do a pair of squiggly brackets. You probably want to get rid of that semicolon, by the way, Streamsmiths. Right at the end of that line. Yeah. There we go. So what this is doing, by the way, we're doing a while loop, which will loop like indefinitely, or well, until the thing inside the brackets is false. So, for example, csv.read, this .read actually returns a boolean, a true or false value. And what it will do is the read method here will progress through the CSV file line by line until it reaches the end. And each time it progresses, it returns true, so the while loop knows it can continue. You know, the while loop will say, right, CSV read, CSV reader will read the next line and say, yep, here, you know, I'm on the next line. The while loop goes, great. And then we run our code that's inside our squiggly brackets until it will keep doing that until it reaches the end, at which point the csv.read method will say, we've reached the end, false. It returned false, and then the while loop will say, oh, it's false. We're jumping out of the while loop now. We're not doing whatever's inside of it anymore. So that read method doubles up as like two functions. It's got two methods, two purposes. There we go, two purposes. It's responsible for progressing through the CSV file line by line, and it's also responsible for telling our while loop whether it's got a line for us to use. So within our CSV file, within our CSV while loop, we want to do yeah, so this is each, hang on, draw a blank here. So each row is an activity. Yeah, for some reason my brain just went like soggy for a second then. We probably want to create some variables. So what we're going to do is inside our while loop, we're going to create three variables: one for ID, one for our description, and one for is completed, keeping in mind that each loop through the while loop is for one activity. So I'm going to do var ID equals csv dot get field I'll let you get that. Yeah, there we go. Then you want to do a open crocodile bracket. So the less than greater than symbols, I'm going to call them crocodile brackets because that's how I've always called them. And inside those crocodile brackets, we're going to type the word GUID. So we're going to type GUID, which is the type that our ID is in our activity class. And then after the closing like crocodile bracket, or the less than sign, greater than sign, whichever one it is, you want to do an open close bracket, and then inside the open and close bracket, so inside the brackets, you want to type double quote, and we need to now type the header that matches this field. That should work. That column, yeah, so we want to type the header that matches the field. So our header for this, it matches. Tell you what, because we didn't actually define any headers in our save CSV, it uses the class name, the class's property name. So Streamsmiths, for you in here, you want to type a capital I and a capital D. For me, I want to type a capital I and a lowercase d, because it literally uses the name that we gave that property in the class itself. So that there is set up so that our variable ID is a GUID variable, just like it is in our activities class, and we're saying, right, we're setting our ID variable to be equal to csv.getField, so that's going to get a field of type GUID, and the field it wants to grab is the column, is from the column ID. The row is handled by csv.read, so you don't need to worry about the row. Each while loop will iterate through each row, starting from the top, and I think this should skip the header, I think. If not, we'll know because it'll have a hissy fit. It'll have a hissy fit, and we'll know too. I know how to fix that problem as well. We just need to do another CSV read before the while loop, but we'll get to that if we need to. Right. On the next line underneath, we need to do the same for description. So var description equal. I'm gonna make mine easier. I'm gonna call it var d. So much simpler. CSV.get field, and this time we don't need to do the open and close crocodile brackets or less than greater than symbols. We don't need to do those because the default get field without giving it a type, which is what the crocodile brackets are for, is to tell it what type we're trying to grab. The default is a string, and our description is already a string, and that's fine. So we can just do get field open and close regular brackets, and inside the regular brackets we type double quotes. Inside the double quotes we want to do activity description. That's what I called my property. Lovely. And then a semicolon, yeah. And then var, I'm going to call it C, but this could be is completed. Or complete, whatever you want to call it, and then var c equals csv.get field, and then we want to do this time we do want to do the open close less than greater than crocodile brackets thing, and inside here we're going to type bool bool because we're going to get a boolean this time. And thankfully, the CSV helper should actually read true and false, even though they're strings in the CSV file. It should actually read it as a boolean, so that's great. But yeah, just like the other ones, we want to do open and close bracket after the crocodile brackets, and then double quotes, and then is completed. Is that is completed? Yeah, is completed is what I call my boolean. Do you know what yours is called? Is yours completed or complete? Yeah, okay. Cool. So now we have our 3 variables. 1 second. Why is that? Interesting. I'm just going to test something. 1 sec.
I think there's something where you don't have to put variables in or something.
What's that?
It keeps coming up with these recommendations just to take var out.
Oh, that's because we aren't actually using it. We aren't using what it is because we haven't actually used the ID D or C yet. It won't suggest that once we do the next part.
Okay.
And the next part is we're going to build our activity like we did with the read text. We did a var a equals new activity and then gave it the values. We're going to do the exact same thing here, but it should be a little bit easier because we do var a equals new activity, and then we don't do the regular brackets, we do the squiggly brackets, and then we can do inside the squiggly brackets we do id equals, and then id like we called it above, so you could do capital ID, yep, equals, and then lowercase id. There you go, and then a comma. And that will basically, because we've already created our ID variable above as a GUID, a GUID, we just have to pass it through. We just have to give it to the activity object, like we've done here. And so this ID equals ID. And then, yeah, you just want to do activity description equals D, comma, and then is completed equals C, comma. Well, you'd have to do a comma on the last one. You can do it if you want. But yeah. There you go, we've got A as an activity now, and that's populated with our data from the CSV file. And then after the squiggly bracket, you want to do a semicolon for the activity. And then you basically want to do the exact same thing we did with the text document, the text one, which was activity list dot add A. There we go. Now I say we give this a test run. What do you think?
Yeah.
It won't work at the minute because we're not actually calling read CSV. But that's fine. If you close that, and now if you go all the way back up to the top where we've got our read text inside main window. So yours is actually shrunk down on the minute. If you look at line 23 and hit the plus, yeah, so that read text, if you replace that with read CSV and get rid of the read text, so just replace text with CSV. Why can't I type CSV? There we go. So now, because we've got it set up to save the CSV anyway every time, if you now run it, it should, in theory, have a hissy fit. Right, okay, and that's fine, This is what I was worried about. It turns out it is reading the header. That's not an issue at all. All we need to do to fix that is above the while loop. So before the while loop, you want to do csv.read header, open close bracket, semicolon, and that will read the header for you, so that you don't have to worry about the header being read by the while loop. So yeah, if you then essentially stop and restart it, it should now skip the header. No header record was found. Oh, okay, that's fine. If I open this, no, what? Edit. The description is completed. Okay, no, that's fine. I think what it is basically it's not recognizing our header. Okay, that's not an issue at all. Anyway, all we can do to like manually skip this is instead do csv.read, open and close bracket, semicolon. So basically get rid of the header part. And then if you now restart it, that should, in theory, no, what? The header has not been read. You must call read header before any fields retrieved by name. Wait a second, is that csv.read header? Okay, just having a bit of an experiment right now. What exists? What? I'm so confused right now.
This is trying to read information from the CSV document, right?
Yeah.
And the header should be ID, activity description, and is completed, because that's
it should. Yeah. Tell you what, I'm just going to do a little bit more experiment. One sec. Actually, I just realised. To test this, all I had to do was hover over that. No, oh, that's weird. Hold on a second. One sec. Head. Right, one sec. Let me just check something. It's already set to true. I don't get this. For some reason, it's not accepting our header. Like, if we don't read one line, like if we basically just do a while csv.read without doing the initial csv.read, it for some reason attempts to read the header as the row, even though it recognizes it's a header or something. Read. Can't read. Okay, I mean there's a way around this in that we just don't use the names. So over in our get field, we've got ID activity description and is completed in quotes. We could just replace that with 0, 1, 2, which is just the column numbers instead of the names. That will fix things. We would still need to do a csv.read above the while loop, so that's fine. So if I test this now, yeah, that's fixed it. It's just really annoying. Like
that's not in quotes. It's just like that, yeah.
Yeah, not in quotes. So you want to do it as integer numbers. Yeah, there you go. That's the one. And then yeah, you run that. You should see. Yeah, see it's working now. Okay, that's just really weird. Oh, start to make digital art when this drawing is done. I'll show you. Oh, do you know who else has started doing digital art? Sammy. She's been doing it.
What's digital art?
Yeah, you know, like paint and stuff. You know, art, but on your computer.
Oh, okay, doodling.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so we've now got our read CSV and we know it works because we just tested it. So now do you think we should move on to JSON? Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, yeah, it's reading and writing in CSV, so that's the next natural progression.
Lovely. So what we want to do is earlier on when we added our CSV helper Nuget package, we need to do that same process again, but this time we're going to get something called Newtonsoft. So over in the Solution Explorer for the project, again, it's the one you recognize as underneath the solution with the little C# box to the left of the name of it. Right click it, manage Nuget packages about a third of the way down. In the browse, we won't actually have to browse for it. No, we won't have to. It's got 1.69 billion downloads. It is the most popular Nuget package to ever be made. For a reason, it's so popular. It's so useful. Newtonsoft.json. You do not even have to search for it. So yeah, we do that. We install it just like we did before. Again, hit the little down arrow to the right hand side of the list, or the install button on the right hand side in the details section of the Nuget package after you click on it. So now what we want to do, now that we've installed it, should have installed real quick because it's really simplistic. I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm not pretty sure. I think Microsoft may have added like stuff into C#, like into .NET that Newtonsoft was relying on externally, because I'm pretty sure that Newtonsoft thing used to require additional packages, but it doesn't anymore. So anyway, right, we're now going to do yeah, Streamsmiths is already on it. He knows what he's doing. Underneath read CSV, we're going to do public void save JSON, because we're going to do save first.
Oh, my bad.
That's all right. That's all good.
What? Yeah, we do need to save, because if you don't save, then there's no information to read. Right, cool.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, this is going to be a one-line. We can do it as a one-line wonder. We won't, because it's harder to read. I'm going to make this more easier to read. So we're going to make it a two-line wonder. And what it's going to be is we're going to type the words. We're going to type var JSON, so JSON equals JSON convert so that's capital J, capital C, because you yeah. So you have to do. Do you see the bottom option? The bottom option in your list.
Yeah.
That is in the one that says JSON convert dash using. Yeah, that one there. There you go. Spot on. That's the one. Love it. So yes, JSON convert. Dot. Yeah, we're going to a JSON concert. JSON convert dot, and then we're going to do serialize. So SER, and you should see serialize object as one of the options. You do that, and then you need to pass in an object. We can just type in activity list. What that's going to do is it's going to take our activity list and turn it into a string. It's literally just going to do everything that we did in our string builder, like in our save text, right? But it's going to do it for us, and it's going to format it all nicely as a JSON format. It's going to be great. And it's just a semicolon at the end, like you've done. That's great. And on another line under it, we're going to do file dot write all text. We've done it before. We might as well copy the file.write all text from our save text. We do just need to change the file type though, so I'll let Streamsmiths grab that. That's the one, yeah. That's the one. Head back to our JSON, save JSON, and just stick it underneath. And then we need to change the activities.txt to be activities.json. And then I don't think it matters, to be honest. I've done lowercase, but I don't think file type matters if it's yeah.
Try J and then we'll know for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so for the content of what we're passing into it, you'll probably see you've got an error there. That's fine. All you need to do is get rid of the sb.toString and then the open and close bracket. You just want the one bracket left over from our write all text. And we're just going to type JSON, JOSN. That's it. Boom, sorted. Love it. Super simple. Save JSON's done. That is literally it. We might as well add it to our on closing as well. The window on closing just there. And now I'm just going to run mine and actually see if it works. If I close it and open up my file browser, yeah, we've got an activities.json. If I open with Sublime Text, let's give it a second to load. You probably going to want to open yours, I'm guessing, in Notepad, unless you've got a JSON editor.
I doubt it.
If not, I would really recommend Sublime Text. So yeah, you got that JSON. So you could nice, sweet, you've got it. Love it. There we go. So
I've got that.
Sorry?
Oh, I've got that. I don't know.
Fair enough. You can hit cancel if you want, because you don't need to. Yeah. So it has formatted it for us, although it's done it all in one line, which I really don't like the look of. So I'm just going to make one small change.
In the line of code, yeah.
Yeah, so in our JSON line, in our the one which has JSON convert or serialize object, after activity list, but before the bracket, I've done comma, and then it'll probably give you a suggestion which says formatting.indented. So if you hit space, does yours give you a suggestion or? Yeah, so formatting dot and then indented is what I've gone with. And what that'll do is that'll actually format the string to be indented. So like if we now save and run that. Oh, is it gonna? No, okay, that worked. Okay. Now if I pull back up Sublime Text, it's now actually formatted nicely, and you can see the structure of it. So you can see we've got these square brackets, which matches up with C#. The square brackets in C# means an array or a list or some kind. And then inside the square brackets, and that's the same for JSON as well, so the square brackets indicates it's a list or an array. Inside the square brackets, we've then got each element, which is shown by the squiggly brackets. So you've got an open squiggly bracket followed by 3 lines of text, closing squiggly bracket, and a comma. Everything in between the squiggly brackets is a object. So for example, we've got our object, and we know there's an ID property with an ID. We've got a description with a description. It's completed with a true or false value. And I've got 3 of them.
These are quite long, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they have to be, because they have to be 100% unique.
Okay.
Those IDs that you're seeing there, they've never been generated before in history.
That's insane.
Well, that's okay. That's not necessarily true. They shouldn't have been generated in here. Like, they should be 100% unique. Having said that, there is if 2 computers or 2 pieces of code generates one of these GUIDs, it generates if 2 GUIDs are generated on the exact same millisecond, then they'll be the same.
We had issues at work with that once, didn't we? Can't remember. I think it was like a rare occurrence, like super rare occurrence where it happened. I think it was like a reference or something, like a reference.
No. Oh, yeah. Okay, you mean on SM9? Yeah. So the way they generate, because of the way they generated their IDs and their references, it probably did. Yeah, you're right. It would have had a quick problem.
It's very similar. And then I know it had to be looked into because it causes all sorts of issues.
Yeah.
And that's it. It did turn out that they just literally click the button at the exact same time.
Yeah. And it does happen. Like, that's the thing. It can happen, but I mean, it's very rare. Like, it's very rare that you'll see it happen. At least in one project. So.
You can't odds it, can you?
Sorry?
Sometimes you just can't odds it. There's no workaround for it.
No, exactly. That's it. There isn't. But I mean, still, to be fair, like you said, they are quite long pieces of text, and that does help. Like, the longer the text, the more likely it is it's going to be unique. So, yeah. Right. So that's save JSON. Now, I suppose we should do read JSON.
Yep.
Make sense? Love it.
Yep. So I'm gonna guess. Are we doing it underneath it directly? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what we could do, if you want, we could, like, we've got a region set up for storage management. We set up a region earlier. We could then split this region up into smaller regions, like one for save text, one for text, one for CSV, just to make it easier to, like.
I just would do. What is it? Hashtag region.
Yeah.
And then you name it. So if I was to do just something to do JSON, a second end region here. No, not end if end region. Why did I do it? I done Jordan.
Yeah.
Minimize some of these other ones as well. So I can definitely see why you use these regions.
Yeah. Do you remember the thing I made for the US?
Kind of. I don't think I actually saw the full of it. The full.
No,
version.
but
I know what you did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I think had like 5,000, 6,000 lines of code in it. And so I had to like split that into like I think there was like 9 major regions, and then there was like smaller regions inside of those. So yeah, it gets a bit unwieldy sometimes.
I'm actually
Having said that,
thankfully, I know it's like small, but I feel like that will help me with coding a lot because I'll be able to hide stuff that I know that I've dealt with. It's just like file management, isn't it, internally?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like organization. That's exactly it. But yeah, I'm going to be honest. These days, I don't tend to use regions anymore, just because I just collapse my methods now. So like, I'll do things like this. So you know, if we ignore the regions on my side, I'll just do things like that. This.
But I guess that's it. The more that you code, the easier it is to read it all. And it's just like reading the book.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's it. We want to keep JSON open there. Right. So. Yeah, so we've got our read JSON method. Now that we've formatted we've organised our code, looks all nice and dandy. Oh God, Jesus Christ! My monitor just flickered.
Jeez. Why is that?
Right, I don't know. I think I nudged. I just had to like clean the underside of my mouse, so I think I nudged the cable for my monitor. Just quickly, is stream still seeing the code? Okay. Love it. Oh, you redeemed a hydrate. Oh, sorry. I haven't had OBS open in like 2 hours, so. Dankeschön. Yeah, I haven't had.
It's because you had that was when you had that brain moment, and I thought you might need some water to wash your brain clear of it.
Was that like 20 minutes ago? Jesus Christ. Fair enough. That was when we was working on the CSV, wasn't it? Reading from the CSV, yeah. Alright then, well, we're reading JSON now, so let's forget about that. Alright then, all we need to do is activity list equals JSON convert dot deserialize object. Activity. I'll be honest, I am actually just sort of like, one sec. No, I'm writing code, but like, I'll run through this in a sec. I've done it in a weird order, is all. That's all I've done. I've just sort of butchered the order. So just to make it easier, I'm getting that written. Okay. Right, so just to run through what I've just done. I did this in a weird order. I started typing this line, but then we actually need a line before it. So the first line that you need to do is var JSON equals file.readAllText. Read all text, yeah. And then we're going to, you know, much like with all the others, I've copied the path.combine from above. So all of that, and I've stuck that inside the brackets for read all text. So we're going to read all of the text from that file. It's going to come in as a string. Fortunately, we know it's a JSON string, so that works out well. And then at the end of that line, a semicolon. You're going to need one more bracket. There we go. And then on the next line, I've done activity list equals, and then I've typed JSON convert dot deserialize object. So just like above, we did serialize object. We're now doing deserialize object. And then I've done a pair of crocodile brackets. And inside the crocodile brackets, I've typed observable collection, which is the type of our list up above. So you could, if you want, copy the type from you know, that our activity list is above. That includes the crocodile bracket activity as well for that. So you want the crocodile bracket activity part as well. So once you've done that,
right, that's wrong, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, no. So you want it to be inside the crocodile bracket. So there you go, just there. Yeah. Once you've done that, at the end of you should then have two crocodile brackets. You should have two of the same bracket, like next to each other. You then want to do an open regular bracket followed by JSON, as you've called the variable above, close bracket, semicolon. So that there is set up to read our JSON and set our activity list to be equal to that. Now, mine's having a hissy fit because there's the potential that it could be null. Essentially, if yeah, so there's a potential that we're assigning a null value to activity list. We know it's not right now, but it could be. If the list is empty, it's not going to save it as a list in JSON. It's actually, I don't think it will save it at all, as in like it will be a clear file. Yeah. So this okay, okay. Yeah, we're going to do one more little thing. We're going to do one more little thing just to be safe, just to stop it from having a hissy fit. I know yours is fine. Mine's having a hissy fit though. So between these two lines, we're going to do var list equals, and then we're going to take what we got before on the next line, the JSON convert equals JSON convert dot deserialize object. So everything after the equal sign on the line below, we want to pop that on the line above. And then we can delete activity list because we're going to replace it. So that the line underneath, we can delete that. We're going to replace it with something else. We're going to do if list. So if bracket list. So if statement, and inside the brackets list not equal. So that's exclamation point equals null.
I bit not. Yeah, not equals null.
And then that's our what's going to be in the brackets. After the brackets, we want to do activity list equals list. So that covers that.
Okay, so if I now go in and delete the JSON.
Oh yeah, no, that's you forgot a semicolon at the end of that line. Okay. That's actually, I mean, you're right. This is going to cause problems. That's going to crash. Oh, actually, no, we're not reading from the JSON. You're not reading the JSON.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to put. Yeah, this is going to cause problems. So you're right. Because we're not checking to see if the file exists. So if you start that should give you an error, or not. Oh wait. Sorry. No, if you go back in and delete the file, because it. Oh,
I would have created it. Would have saved it.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. So now if you run it, you should get an error. Yeah. So Streamsmiths just got an error, so I'm going to do the same. No, actually, no, I'm not going to. I'm just going to take my word for it because I don't want to like bugger out my. I've got my list of activities. I don't want to lose them. Right. So yes, Streamsmiths has just got an error where it's basically saying the file cannot be found because he's deleted it. Bad boy. What we're going to do is we're going to do in our read JSON, and we are going to have to do this for all of our reads as well. We're going to have to do this for read text and read CSV. But in our read JSON, we'll do it for JSON first. You all right there?
Yep.
Okay. Right at the top, so before our var JSON equals file.read all text, we want to make some lines, and we want to do if open bracket. Inside the brackets, we want to type file dot exists open close bracket, and inside those open close brackets you want to copy the path.combine thing. I'm going to be honest, I'm thinking it might actually be worth our while taking this path.combine thing and actually turning it into a variable in this file, so we don't have to keep doing path.combine folder path blah blah blah. We can just basically create a property within this main window called JSON file, and it will be equal to this. Let's do that. It will make life a bit easier for us. What you want to do is you want to take our path.combine folder path activities.json thing, go all the way up to the top where we've got our like public string folder path, and we want to do public string. Underneath that, I'm going to do a public string JSON path equals, and then paste in what we've got. Why is that having a history for it? Not here. Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Out there. Right, what we're going to do, I'll let you do what you're doing there, yeah, and then semicolon the. Oh, you missed a bracket. There you go. And then a semicolon. So it's gonna, yeah, so it's it's having a bit of a hissy fit for you. So it doesn't like the fact that we're trying to reference folder path even though folder path isn't static. So all you have to do is between public and string for both folder path and JSON path, just need to type static. So between public and string.
Oh, between them. Oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So it needs to be public static string. Yeah. There we go. And you do that.
One as well.
Yeah, for both of them. There we go. So that then allows us to use folder path within JSON path. Now we're going to do the same thing for TXT and CSV. So CSV path, TXT path. So yeah, you just need to make a copy of that line, yeah, and just paste it twice.
I might change that to CSV.
Mm-hmm.
Text, right? That's what we're doing.
Yeah, text. I call it TXT, but text or whatever you want to call it. And then that file type does have to be TXT. There you go. Okay, so now I'm just going to go back into our previous methods, so in the text and CSV methods, and we're just going to replace everywhere we've used path.combine, we're just going to replace it with the respective like path. So TXT path for the text ones. There we go. That's that.
Why is that not liking it?
Because you've got a bracket. Why have you got the bracket? After text path. Get rid of that. There you go. And then CSV as well, so CSV file. And then I'm also just going to do my JSON one as well. JSON.
Got a bit slower, sorry.
All good, don't worry. The benefit of doing this, by the way, is if we ever change the name of our file, we don't then have to change it on all of our save and reads and stuff. We can just change it in this one bit at the top, and it'll automatically just work for the rest of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just change this. JSON. What the hell do I just do? Oh.
Count your brackets.
Still not liking it.
Yeah, no, that one's having an error because of the if statement above, because we haven't finished it yet. We haven't finished the if. And don't forget to fix the save JSON as well.
My eyes are going funny.
So 144. Yeah, line 144.
What am I fixing? Sorry.
So it's got you giving you an error at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because of that bracket. Not that one.
The one before it.
The one before it, yeah. There we go. Cool, and then, so now we were working on the if statement, so you probably want to replace the path.combine inside here as well. In that if. Yeah, just there, that's the one. JSON path, yeah. Cool. Right, so if file exists JSON path, so this if statement in the minute is going to run if the file exists. Now we don't want to do that. We want this if statement to run if the file does not exist. So the way of doing that is just sticking an exclamation point just before the word file. And that basically reverses it. So it says, okay, does the file exist? Not. Basically, it's just saying if not file exists, then run this code. And all we're going to do is we're just going to type return. At the end of the if statement, we're going to type return followed by a semicolon. And all that's saying is that if the file does not exist, don't bother going any further. The file doesn't exist, we can't use it, so just return. Return basically says, don't run anything else inside this method, jump out of it. It basically skips all the way to the end of the method without running the rest of it. That's all that's what that does. Now we want to do that, by the way, for all of our other reads. So read text, I'm going to do the same.
I'm just going to copy the statement. Right here.
Yeah, that is purely valid.
Whereabouts does it belong within the code? Right at the start, I guess.
Yeah, so it's the very first thing you want to do in the read, not in the save, but the read. The save's fine. We can like save without a file, and we can also save if there is a file, so that's not an issue. There we go. There we go. So that will now handle a situation in which it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So do you reckon we should test it? Do you want to make sure your JSON is deleted? Oh, actually, no. Sorry, I've just you've got read CSV at the minute. So your JSON's gone, so that's good. If you replace read CSV with read JSON. Yeah. And it should, in theory, it should just load a blank list.
Yeah, because it's a new one. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Lovely. And then yes, that should, there you go. Love it. Love it. Sorted. So that's fixed our crashing if the file doesn't exist. So that's fine. I'm gonna be honest. Actually, no, that's actually fine. That's all good. It's all good. I was gonna say something, but then I just realized we just did it. Don't worry. I was going to say I'd wrap the logic in a method, but we did. We wrapped it in a method called read JSON and read whatever, you know. I mean, we could be super fancy here and like have one save and read method. Well, we could have one read method that you then pass in like a type, and it'll read the relevant type. But like, I don't think we should do that until the end if we're going to do it. Yeah. Anyway. We need to now move on from JSON. As much as I love JSON, we now need to move on to SQLite, which is it's kind of like SQL or SQL, but it's doesn't involve using like a database server. Instead, it uses the local file system. So it uses your hard drive and saves a file, a database file, that you can read and write from using SQL, the SQL language. It's just not like on an actual server. It's just a file on your desktop or whatever, wherever you save it. We're going to save it to our application folder, but yeah. So we want to make a new region, and you're already on it. So I'm not going to call mine SQL. I'm going to call mine SQLite. So SQLite. That's what I'm calling mine, because I'm then going to have SQL be the main SQL server. But it's whatever you want to call it. So I'm calling mine SQLite.
Oh, I see. So we got because yeah, we started off local and then we go into online. That's
the one, yeah. Right. So we want to do a public void save SQLite. Mine's having a hissy fit because it doesn't like the way I've typed SQLite, but it can go do one. Yeah, there we go. Yep, and then open close brackets followed by squiggly brackets. So that's our method. Now, before we can go any further, we do need to now get another Nuget package. So again, on the right, well, for me on my right-hand side, Streamsmiths on his left. In the Solution Explorer, right-click the project. We've been through this twice now. Nuget packages, third of the way down. Now we want to browse SQLite. So it's one L. Now we kind of have to make a decision here on what one we want to go with. What I'm thinking is because it does kind of matter in that some I've had problems with certain ones before. Okay, tell you what we're going to do. I'm pretty sure the second one from the top works. It should just be called SQLite, SQLite with a tick. It's by SQLite Development Team, 2.59 million downloads. It's got a little blue icon with like a little feather. I think it's like a dark blue feather. That's what we're going to go with. Yeah, looks like you found the one. That's the one that we're going to grab. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go with that one and hope for the best. Cool, we can now close our Nuget thing. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is where I'm going to be a bit rusty because I have only worked with SQLite files twice. So, here goes nothing. Let me just check something. Hold on a second. SQL. I'm just trying to figure out what the okay, this is where Google comes in. Hang on. C# SQLite example. That's what we want. Okay. No. I think this might the Nuget package we picked might actually be one that we don't really want to use. So let's go back into our Nugets. So right click our project, manage Nuget packages, third of the way down, and this time we're going to go into the in our Nuget browser, just above the search bar. There's three little tab things. We got browse, installed, and updates. We're going to go to installed, and we're actually going to go to our SQLite one, and where the down arrow was in the browse list, we've now got a red X. We're going to uninstall that, the SQLite one. I don't think it's going to play ball with us. Once it's finished uninstalling, we want to go back to browse. I'm just going to pull up Discord so I can see where you are in the process. Did you hit the delete?
Yeah, I did delete it.
Cool. Okay, so you want to go back to browse and then again SQLite. Now let me just double check. Which one does this tell us to use? Right. The documentation I found is telling us to scroll down a bit until we can find something called one of the ones called system.data.sqlite. It's the same icon as the one before, and it's made by the same people. It's 10.1 million downloads. It should be. Let me just scroll up so I can see how you're doing. Yep, that's the one. You found it. We want to grab that one, apparently. And this is a good example actually here. This one here has a lot of dependencies. Like, it's relying on all these things, so it's going to install all of these things. Except, I mean, it might actually be installing that SQLite thing we already just installed just now. But
probably added feature then.
Sorry?
Probably added features then.
Yeah. Anyway, once that's installed, we can now close the Nuget window. And now, using our SQL equals new SQL. Right. There we go. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I was trying to find. We can now create a SQLite connection. Connection string. Okay. Yeah. So what we're going to do is you can now close the Nuget packet, the Nuget browser. Yeah, that there. So inside our save SQLite method, we're going to do using var. Oh, if I can type, that'd be great. Using var. I'm going to call mine SQL. I'm going to call mine connection or con. CONN, short for connection. That's what I'm going to do. Equals new SQLite connection. So that's SQLite. You're probably going to need to type this out exactly. So capital S, capital Q, capital L, and then lowercase ite, and then connection with a capital C. So connection, so CONNECTION. And then if you do an alt enter, it should suggest an import for you. Love it, that's the one. Cool. And so what we're going to do is we actually do need to, well, I mean, we don't need to, we want to pass in a connection string into the brackets. Now what that connection string is, let me find it.
You send it to me, remember?
No, that's for the that's to connect to the server. Yeah. No, I'm looking. I really hope that doesn't want us to. Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Right. What we want to do is we're going to make another path. We made a path earlier for text file, for CSV, for JSON. We're going to do the same for SQLite. So public static string. This is up with our existing path, so our folder path, TXT path, CSV path, JSON path. So public static string SQLite path equals path.combine folder path, and then what we're going to call this is activities.db. How we doing? All good?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So then save that, and now down here in the save SQLite method, we've got our quotes here. We actually want to put a $sign at the beginning of the quote. So this is before the quotes. We're going to use what I mentioned earlier, string interpolation. And what we want to do is at the beginning of this string, is it URI? It is. We want to type URI, all caps, equals. So this is now within the quotes. Yep, URI equals, and then file, all lowercase, FILE, followed by colon, not a semicolon, just a regular colon. This is still within the string. And then squiggly brackets, and this is where we type in SQLite path, so the path we created up above.
Got it.
Cool. And then go all the way outside to the end of the bracket, like the end of the line, stick a semicolon on. So you should have using varcon equals new SQLite connection, and then our string with SQLite path in the string. Should say URI equals file colon SQLite path.
Question. Where you say at the end of the line put a semicolon, is that like, is there like a reference to that, like end line, or?
Oh, do you mean how to jump to the end if you're like somewhere else in the?
No. Just when you're referring to it, so when you're talking about it, is it just like end line? Like how would you state what that is? It's the semicolon at the end of a line. Is end line.
I guess if you want to get technical, it's a line terminator.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, people don't tend to like. I don't think people tend to like refer to it by a name. You just sort of say semicolon.
What I was thinking about, that's it. Rather than you saying having to go to the end, you could just say terminate line.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we'll do that. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, we'll say that, terminate line. Or I could just say end line or something. End line, terminate line. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good shout. Right. On the next line though, we want to do con.open. That should create the database, I believe, if it doesn't exist. I think it might not.
How do we know?
How do we?
So we just start it and close it.
Yeah. You start it and close it. Oh, actually, we need to make sure we
not read. Yeah.
The on closing. Yeah. So in the on closing, if we type save SQLite at the end, this should, in theory, create a database, a DB file. Yep. No. Oh wait, I haven't closed it yet. I'm an idiot. Yep, I've got an activities.db. Sweet.
Yep. How'd you read that? Is that Sublime as well?
No. We aren't going to be getting into reading database SQLite files. You need a special piece of software. I've got a piece of software called DB Browser or DB Explorer, I think it is. I have no idea where I got it from. Genuinely, I have no clue. I have tried finding it since, and I cannot find it online. These SQLite files are a nightmare. It's why I wouldn't recommend using SQLite. That's why I've only used it twice in my life, because I'm not a big fan. I like the fact that it's SQL. Don't like the fact that it's light. Anyway, we're going to continue working on our save SQLite file, method here. So using varcon equals new SQLite connection, we've got our connection string in there. So just a heads up, that string that we typed in, that's what's called a connection string. I know it sounds pretty obvious because it's a string we're using to connect, but just figured I'd mention it. So it is the technical term. Then we've opened our connection, which is what we've done here. We've done con.open. That opens a connection to our database, to our server, quote unquote server, in this case it's our database file. We do need to do a .open when we're working with the actual server as well. So from this point on, the SQLite stuff we're going to be working with is almost identical to the actual SQL Server stuff. The only difference is one saves to a file on your computer, the other saves to an actual server.
Which means that we'll have to put that information into the location, right? At some point, somewhere.
Yeah, so the details I sent you earlier on we'll need to put into the connection string. So this URI equals file, colon, and then SQLite path, that'll be replaced with the details I sent you. Not in the exact format I sent you, we'll format it properly when we get to it, but those details will go in there.
When we did that, would we be better off putting up static string like we did earlier?
Yeah.
Empty files changes.
Yes, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a couple of static strings. So I'm actually going to do an extra space between what we've done above and what we're going to type. But there's going to be four pieces of information. We're going to need a username, a password, a database. Is it just 3 pieces? Let me check.
Oh, right, yeah. Because
and a host. Sorry. Yeah, we need a host, a username, a password, and a database to connect to. So. I also sent you the port. We don't actually need the port. That's more if you happen to download a if you happen to download like a SQL browser or something, like a SQL Server browser. I personally use a piece of software called Heidi SQL. You could pop the port in. I mean, the port I sent you, which is 3306, is the standard SQL port. So 9 times out of 10, you won't ever need to type that anyway. But SQL servers can run on any port. So if it's run on a different port, if you ever work with a SQL server run on a port that isn't 3306, you will need to give the thing that you're connecting with will need to know that it's not 3306. In our case, though, we shouldn't need to worry about that. We should be able to connect to it without needing that information. Anyway, SQLite. We've opened up our connection to our database. Now, the problem is we need to create a table because our database at the minute is an empty database. We need to create a table, but only if it doesn't exist. Right?
Yes, because
we don't want to create the same table more than once, do we?
But could we not do it that it overwrites it if it does? Which is why you're saying, is that what you're saying? If it doesn't exist, if you do.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is if it already exists, if you... okay, so... Well, we don't... That's the thing, we don't want to overwrite it if it already exists because when you load it up... Yeah, when we yeah, like basically... It's just really inefficient to recreate it every time.
Yep, sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. Now, the problem is, the example I found they're actually doing what you just said, where they're destroying the table if it exists and recreating it every time. We don't want to do that. I know there is a way of basically creating a table if it doesn't exist already. I think what it is I think it's something like I should point out that we're going to be using the SQL language, which is a new programming language. I probably should have warned you about that, actually. Sorry. It's a much simpler language though. Like it's really simple.
Say that. I think that's where I bumped into problems when I was doing. Do you remember when I'm pretty sure I was doing pretty much this, but obviously a different program. And do you remember we couldn't tap into the database? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember this.
So you know the app that I was making for my team, and I was trying to get the team stats, and it was all on database. It was all on a SQL database, and it was we looked at it, and when it was running, it was showing that it was connecting, but it wouldn't actually pull any of the data over.
Okay. But to be fair, that was within Excel, wasn't it? That was within like VBA, wasn't it?
No. No, I don't think it was. That's
Wait, when was this?
So I'd already done that all in Excel. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then I said that I wanted to do it within. Pretty sure it was C#. I'm sure it was C#.
Oh, you mean? Oh, sorry. Yeah, this was. I thought you meant like at work. You was trying to do it. Like you mean like at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I remember now. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what went wrong there. Like why it all went a bit.
We didn't
sideways.
fix it because I ended up basically just not having a clue and just leaving it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What I will say is, we're not going to have that problem today.
Okay.
I promise.
That's good.
Hopefully. No, we won't. Well, I know we won't have that problem today. We'll be fine. If we do run into any problems, I can guarantee it will be on the host end, not our end. Because I don't know why we couldn't get that sorted for you before, but I've connected to I've set up SQL connections like loads since then, so we should be fine. We should be alright. Okay. Now, yeah, let me just do a quick Google search. So, oh wait, is this my SQL? Well, hang on a sec. I'm just trying to figure out what specific SQL language SQLite uses, because unfortunately there are different types of SQL. You've got Microsoft SQL, you've got MySQL, which is what we're going to be using for our SQL server. You've got PostgreSQL, and you've got Oracle SQL. They are all basically the same language, but there are just slight differences in the way you do things on them. Just like the tiny little differences. So, for the most part, once you know one, you can work with the rest. It's just tiny little variances that I need to just be careful of. And I'm not finding anything at all to help me create. Oh, there we go. Create table. If not, spot on. Great. Literally, it's exactly the same as it is with MySQL. I love it. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to write some SQL, because we can't just do... the problem is we can't do a lot of our coding in C# when it comes to SQLite.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have to basically... Yeah, we're going to have to write SQL. Before we go any further, I do apologize for having to keep doing this, but we're going to download another Nuget package. So we want to go back to our Solution Explorer. We want to right click on the project. We want to go to Manage Nuget Packages a third of the way down. And we want to do a...
done build solution.
Sorry?
Does that do anything?
No, you're fine. No, you're golden, you're fine. In the search bar, we want to type DAPPER, Dapper. And you should get this funky little D with a bunch of lines in it. This thing here, 126 million downloads by Sam Saffron, Mark Gravel, and Nick Craver. We want to grab that. This makes our lives a million times easier when working with SQL. We still have to write SQL, but we don't have to do this really convoluted, awkward way of reading from the SQL. Essentially, if we just take a quick look back on our CSV, with our CSV, we had to do this whole, CSV.read and while CSV.read, and then we had to get each field individually and had to use a number. We couldn't use the header. SQLite and SQL Server work in the exact same way if you don't use Dapper. Dapper, on the other hand, makes this a million times easier. And to be honest, it might have actually made our lives a little bit easier with the CSV. So let me just check. CSV. No, Dapper does not work with CSV. Ignore me. So Dapper had no effect on CSV, but it's going to make our lives a bit easier, and I think it should work. Yeah, okay. Dapper will work with the SQLite. And the way we know this, by the way, if you're going to have to do this yourself, but if you scroll all the way up to the top, where we've got our usings, and make a new line under it, and just type using Dapper with a capital D, it should automatically, yeah, it should suggest it. There you go. Following by a semicolon. And now if you go back down to where we've got our SQLite connection, and if you type con dot and then just hit the up key, if you hit up, does it go to the bottom of the list? It should take you to the bottom. No, okay. If you hold down, then you should. Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, I've just realised yours are all part of the list. Okay, if you look on, if you scroll up a bit and go to queue, so you've got all these queries. If you just go down a bit, because this is in alphabetical order. If you go to queue, we've got all these queries.
Yeah.
All of these queries, these are all added by Dapper.
Right. Okay.
And all it means is that we can actually query by a type of object. So we can essentially read and write from the database using our class, basically. So what we're going to do is when we make our activity database, our activity table, our activity table that's going to store our activities, we're actually going to have it match as close as possible to our activity class. So we're going to give it an ID column, an ID column with the same name. I don't think it can be of type GUID. Oh no, it might be actually. It might be able to be a type GUID actually. It depends if SQLite supports unique identifier. We might have to tweak that bit, but that's fine. We can save activity description as a string. We can save it as completed as a bool. It'll actually get saved as a bit, which is a 1 or a 0. But Dapper and the SQLite connection should be able to convert between them, so that should be fine. I think the GUID's the only thing that's up in the air at the minute. Let me just check. SQLite GUID. I hate that. Does not support GUID. Lovely. Except that it does, sort of. Remember in SQLite, any string can be used as a type name. It's GUID or you do. Okay, no, this is fine. This is fine. I've worked with this before. So, hang on a sec. Okay, so basically, the GUID thing isn't an issue. It's not going to be an issue. We should be fine. So we're going to save it as a blob. That probably means nothing to you, and that is fine. All you need to know is that we're saving it as a blob. Okay, that's cool. So create table blob column. I just want to make sure on how we create a blob column. This is between all elements. I think it's just blob. So that's cool. Okay, lovely. Right, in that case then, let's create our table. So, going back to our SQLite thingamajig, we can get rid of our con dot, by the way. What we want to do... Hang on. Here we go. So, we want to do... var cmd, short for command, because we're gonna run a SQL command, and we want to do equals. Is that gonna work? We'll do that. Yes, actually, that's what we want to do. Yeah, so you want to do var command or cmd, whatever, equals con.create command. Right, what's the overload? Connection, that's fine. And what that's going to do is that's going to create a SQL command that we can then add stuff to, and we're referencing it using cmd. So if we go now cmd.command text, we can now set this to be equal to and then we can use. Okay, first of all, I'm looking at the example I've got here. We're going to do it using prepared statements. Here we go. That's the one. Okay. So command text equals. Oh, actually, this is a create table anyway, so that's fine. Never mind. I'm being an idiot. So the command equal is the text. So we want to do double quotes. Let me just pull up how you still following on? You're good. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Love it. So we want to type. By the way, I should probably say that SQL doesn't have any there's no rules in regards to whether it's lowercase or uppercase. I'm going to be doing a lot of my SQL in uppercase just because it's like standard practice and it's what I've learned. It's what I've always done. But you can do it as lowercase if you want. It's up to you. But we're going to start out by doing create table. Hang on a second. I'm just trying to find an example. Create table. Just because I want to make sure we're all good. Okay, yeah, so create table is then it's. Where do we put the name? Oh no, okay, that's fine. I'm being stupid. So create table if not exists, and then we got to do give it a name. So what do we want to call our table?
To do.
Sorry?
To do.
Yeah, we can call it to do. That's fair enough.
Oh, is it lowercase?
It can be whatever you want. So I typically tend to call my tables. I tend to give them a lowercase name. For example, so with the rest of the SQL, it can be uppercase or lowercase. But because this is the name of something, it will match whatever you put here. So if you put uppercase letters, it will call it to do in uppercase. I think I'm pretty sure even then that's not even case sensitive. Like if you were to type to do in all uppercases, you could then still refer to it as to do with lowercase, I think.
Okay.
But I'm going to do lowercase anyway, just because I like to distinguish between the actual SQL and the names of stuff. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So create table if not exists to do. And then what's that as? Hang on a sec. We don't want that, do we? No, we don't want that. Now we want to do brackets. So inside these brackets, this is our columns. Now,
three columns? Is it 3 columns?
It is 3 columns. We don't need to type 3. We actually need to type the name of it. So we're going to give the column names exactly as they are called in our code. So ID activity description is completed. So activity description is completed. There we go.
I've somehow accidentally dragged it off. Got it.
Cool. Right, now, just before we go any further, do you think you've got that right? I mean, you don't have to worry about the spaces. That's just me. I like to space it so I can see. I mean, I'm going to do what you've done with the spaces there. Just easier to read. There we go. Yeah, the description. Yeah. That's fine. Right, and then you just want to do command cmd.execute non-query open close brackets semicolon. So this is within the so just say there you go. That's the one. Just after our command text. Execute non-query. Yep, there we go. And then open close bracket followed by semicolon. Love it. What that's doing is it's executing the query, and the reason it's non-query is because we're not getting anything back from it. we're creating the table, but we're not actually getting a table back. The table's being created, and then we are then going to add to the table using more SQL. But yeah, so this here is just basically set up so that if the table does not exist, it creates it. If it does exist, it won't run this. It will just ignore. It will say, you know, the database file will see this and it will say, oh, it does exist, so just don't bother doing the rest. That's fine. Now, having said that, I am being a bit of an idiot because, yeah, I just remembered we actually need to be a bit more detailed in our columns. We don't just do the names, so we've actually got to give it types and stuff. So ID would be a blob. So all you do is after the name of the column, you do a space followed by what type it is. So ID is going to be blob, which is what that's what our thingy is. So then we want we don't need to worry about that, do we? Hang on a sec. Oh no, we don't have to worry about that. Actually, no. Okay, it's after blob. We want to type null, and then default, and then open close bracket X, and then 2 single quotes. Apparently, that should apparently fix things up. That should work.
Okay.
Cool. And then activity description, we need to do the same. It's going to be, this time it's going to be an n var char, which is SQL for string. Open close bracket. Sorry?
I fat keyed something.
What did you see? Let's see. Oh god, what did you delete the file? Wait, stop running. Stop the thingy. Oh,
maybe that's what I did. Maybe it started. Maybe it just started. I don't know. I've no idea. I fat fingered something. Probably F11 or something.
Don't know. Could you just run it for me? Actually, no. Don't run it because it'll break on the query.
It shouldn't do because we're not reading from this. Are we?
No, but it'll still try and save it. Actually, tell you what, if you remove on window closing, if you just remove the save SQLite, so that this save SQLite method never runs. So line 189, is it 189?
Oh, this one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that there. So what? Just
get rid of that, yeah. And then run it, and then. Okay, no, it's fine. That's fine. It just had a. Yeah, you're right. It was just something weird happened. Anyway, yeah. So back with our SQL code. You right?
yeah, it's because I didn't put a capital S in this. I'm just going to change that quickly.
Okay. Cool. So back with our SQL, we've got these brackets here. We're just going to type 400. Actually, 400 is a bit long. How long do you think we should set as the maximum length for task, like for a to-do description? Because that's what this number is. This is like a maximum.
Maximum what amount of tasks that you can have?
No, maximum letters for the description.
100.
100. Okay.
Just trying to think. I think I think I'd start with 100. That might change later.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. That's cool. What I will say is that making changes to this in SQLite is going to be a bit of a nightmare, but because we're not using it permanently and we're using SQL Server, it's a lot different. SQL Server is a lot easier to use if you have like a database browser, like a SQL browser. So, yeah.
The reason I say change later, because obviously I know what your plan is with it. So then it might need more characters, whereas now obviously it's just a simple task list.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Fair enough. Okay, and then this here we want to go. We want to type null after the bracket 100, and then default followed by open close bracket, just as we did before, and then just 2 empty quotes.
X empty or just empty?
Just empty quotes. So the X is only needed for this one because it's a blob, and okay. I think the X indicates that it's just like some sort of binary code or something. Okay. And then is completed, I believe, needs to be a bit. So literally just type bit and then not null. There we go. So you just want to change the null for like the blob null part. You just want to make sure it's got 2 L's, and then other than that, I think we're good.
Don't need no empty quotes in that one though.
No, because so the quote empty quotes is just like a default. So we're saying the default value, if we don't give it one, is going to be an empty quote for activity description, because we said it could be. Oh no, yeah, that's a good shout. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. We want to do a default. Set a default equal to 0. So default and then bracket 0. So 0, like I said, the is complete is going to be saved as a bit, which is a 1 or a 0. 0 being false, 1 being true. And our Dapper will handle conversions and everything for us, so we should be good. Right, now I believe that should be fine. I think we also need to put a semicolon at the end of the command text, because I think SQLite requires that. So that'll be at the end of the string, but within the string. If that makes sense.
Oh, right. That's the... Oh, I just realised N goes to the end of the line.
Yes, and goes to the end of the line, yeah.
It doesn't seem to be liking that though.
No, have you got your colon inside the quote? So it should be default, open bracket 0, close bracket, colon, quote, colon.
I think I'm missing a close bracket maybe. Just trying to match yours. Okay. Like that.
I mean, I can't actually see what you're doing just because my chat's over the top of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Lovely. Right, we're creating our table. That's all grand. Now we actually need to save to the table. So what we're going to do is we now need to loop through all of our activities, our to-do items. So we want to do for each, open bracket, var a in activity list. So we're basically doing the exact same thing we did for our text file with the loop, the for loop. But instead of appending to a string builder, we're going to create a SQL command.
Okay.
So you need to put a space between var and a. Yeah, there we go. That's the one. Cool. And then all we need to do is cmd equals con.create command, exactly as we did above, just without the var. So we did a var cmd equals con.create command. We're now doing just cmd equals, so without the var. And then open close bracket and then a semicolon. So what we're doing here is we're reusing the previous command variable. It's just a little bit more memory efficient than creating a new variable each time. And yeah, so we're essentially starting it off from scratch. We're recreating it essentially, but using the same variable. And now what we want to do is we want to do cmd.command text equals and now what we should do is we should really check to see if the thing exists already. So we want to do quotes We want to say inside the quotes, we want to say select star from, select star from to do. So the exact same word, like the, what we called it earlier, to do, where ID equals, and then I just want to make sure exactly the format in SQLite. 1 second. Is that a dollar? Is it it's an at? Okay, so it's an at symbol. I don't think it matters actually. We're going to do so where ID equals at ID, and the ID should be, so you're all good. So you did an uppercase ID, which is fine. That's great. Lovely. And then a semicolon still within the string, and then after the string another semicolon. It's because it turns out that SQLite uses semicolons at the end of their commands. We don't have to do that for our SQL. Like when we get to our SQL Server stuff, we won't do that just because MySQL doesn't use that. Okay. Right. On the next line, we want to do cmd dot parameters. Dot add with value. So add with value, and then open quote. So basically a pair of quotes, and you want to do at ID just as you did before, and then comma. So I think lowercase, and then comma, and then we then want to do a dot ID, and I don't believe we have to convert it to a string. That should work, but it should recognize it as a blob. I hope.
Need to put a comma, semicolon inside.
No. By the way, the no. So you actually want to get rid of the quote at the end. Yeah, and then just before the comma, put the quote back in.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're saying, for our parameters, so what we've done is in our command text we've got a where ID equals at ID, right? And that at ID is a placeholder that we can then put our activity, our to-do items ID into this to see if it exists, right? To see if this particular ID, this activity we're on exists. And then what we do is to populate that placeholder, we have to do parameters dot add with value. We tell it what parameter we're replacing, comma, oh God, broken my one. Yeah, comma, and then a dot ID because we're using the ID.
Okay.
And then what we do is now we're going to make use of Dapper. Well, I mean, we kind of no, executing on query isn't a Dapper thing. Yeah, this is going to be the first point at which we actually use Dapper. So we want to do var e or exists or something. I'm gonna do exists equals cmd dot actually no. I just realized this is Dapper's not going to play ball here. Not in the way we're doing it. We're actually going to have to redo a little bit of what we. Yeah, we're going to redo a bit of this code. We're not actually going to use CMD. Let me just type this out a sec. I think that has to be that, and then I will go through this in a second. I'm just dot query. Is any query? Okay. Is it that? There we go. I think that's it. One sec. I'm just going to quickly just Google to see how Dapper. Dapper C# parameters. Before I go through this, I do just want to make sure we're all kosher. Okay, so we can just use the Asm. Okay, that's fine. Okay, right, so let me just go through what I've just written. What we've done is I've just replaced what I've worked with Dapper. So what I've done is I've done var SQL equals, and then I've done a quote, double quote, string. Inside the string, I've done select star from to do where ID equals at ID semicolon. So it should be the same string that we had before. Just waiting for, just letting Streamsmiths catch up. There we go, nice. So that's what I've done there. So select star from to do where ID equals ID. So we're using Dapper, which allows us to run our queries on the connection itself rather than having to create a command. So I've done con.query, and then I've done these crocodile bracket things that we used earlier for our lists and stuff. Is that light set up thing? Yeah, okay, my lights, thought my lights changed. Yeah, so I've got the crocodile brackets activity, and then after that we've got a bracket followed by SQL, which is the string we just created, comma, and then because we've got this at ID in the string, just like before, we have to add it as a parameter, but Dapper handles parameters slightly differently. We type new and then squiggly brackets, and then we need to give the name of the parameter. I just realized that actually needs to be a lowercase ID. That's my bad. Yeah, so lowercase ID equals a.id, and that will then map our activity ID to the ID parameter. And then once you've done that, should just be good to stick a semicolon at the end. Should, yeah, should be all good. And there we go. So yeah, then you can get rid of that, and then by this point, you know, once that line's been run, we've got our activity. That's it. We've got our list of activities. It's actually a list of activities. So we could do var. We're not going to do this, but you know, we could do like A1. So what this is returning is a list of activities. So I've created a var A1, which is an enumerable of activity. It's basically a list of activity. We're not going to do that because we're just simply doing oh no, actually no, because we need to check if it exists. We do need to do this. I was going to do it slightly differently. Okay, so at the beginning of that line we want to do var exists, and then that'll be then equals and what you've just written, so that's all good. And at the end of this line, before the semicolon, you want to type dot any and then open and close bracket. There you go. That's I believe any is also a Dapper thing. Oh no, I don't think, no, I think, no, sorry, no, any's a link thing, isn't it? Yeah, any's a link thing, sorry. Which actually, yeah, could you scroll up for me, please? I just want to check your usings. Oh yeah, links there. Okay, fair enough. Cool, cool. Have we already used?
We did use link before, yeah.
Oh yeah, the remove. We used the first or default. Yeah. Okay, cool. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay, well there we go. So that's now got a boolean called exists, and that tells us whether or not it exists. And then from here, because the reason we have to do this, by the way, is because if it already exists, then we have to do an update SQL command. If it doesn't already exist, we have to do an insert. And I mean, condor. I mean, I don't know if Dapper has like a really clever way of doing it. Query, execute. No, I don't think Dapper has like a really clever way of doing what's called an upsert. So there's these people have linked like sort of combined insert and update to upsert, where like they've written code that will, they just have to pass in an activity. Like for example, in this situation, we would pass in an activity and our code would automatically go bang and, like, you know, either insert or update depending on the situation. I mean, we're going to code that up here, but people have made like libraries and stuff for it, so yeah. But we're going to do it manually just because it helps us learn. And
How tempted are you to just grab it?
Well, I don't even know what libraries I could grab. I know there are libraries that exist. I just don't know which ones. I haven't looked into that. I mean, it's not hard anyway. This really isn't hard. All we have to do is if exists. So if brackets exists, and then in a. I mean, to be honest, actually, we don't even need to do the squiggly brackets. We can just do enter SQL equals. So you could do this all on one line, or you could do it on another line. I like to split my single line if statements into two lines. Yeah, so SQL equals and then quotes, and then we want to do update to do, and then set activity description equals, and then at I'm gonna do at D for short for description, comma, is completed equals at C, short for completed, and then we want to do where ID equals at ID, and then a semicolon before the end of the quotes, and then a semicolon after the quote. You missed the at symbol for ID. There we go. Cool. Lovely. And then you want to hit enter, and then type else, and then enter again. And then SQL equals, and then another set of double quotes, and then insert, and then into, yeah, insert into to do. So insert into to do.
Okay. Eventually.
Yeah. Open bracket, and then this is when we need to define the columns that we're entering data into. So it'd be ID, comma, activity description, comma, is completed. So you actually want to do a bracket after this completed. You probably want your C in completed to be capital. Yeah. There we go. And then after the close bracket, we want to do values. And then again, another set of open and close brackets. And inside these open and close brackets, this is where we do at ID, comma, at D, comma, at C. So these are our parameters. These are placeholder parameters. And then, yeah, at D, and then comma, at C. Once you've done that, I think you've already done it. Yeah, the semicolon after the bracket, and then a semicolon at the end of the line. Lovely. So all we're doing here is we're resetting the SQL string to be what we want it to be when we execute our SQL command. Yeah. And because the parameters are the same for them, they both have ID, they both have description, and they both have is completed. Because of that, we just have to set the text depending on whether it exists or not, and then we can set the parameters regardless of whether it exists because it's the same either way. So from this point on, the rest of the code is going to be identical for whether it exists or not. The only difference is whether or not we do an update or an insert, which we've already handled now, so we're all good. But yeah, all we want to do now is con.execute. And then in the brackets, you want to type SQL, comma, and then new, and then squiggly bracket. And then here we're going to do what like we did up above, ID equals a.id, comma, d equals a.activity description. So the bit before the equals matches up with our parameter. And then c equals a dot is completed. So, you know, the lowercase id, the lowercase d and the lowercase c matches up with our parameters in the actual SQL command. There we go. And then you just stick a semicolon at the end of the line and we should be all good. That should then, in theory, have added our activities. Before we test this, though, there is something very important we need to do, and that is con.close. Just because this can't be in the for each, by the way. This has to be outside of the for. So the for loop's now done. So with the execute, that was the last thing we want to do in the for loop. So now underneath the for loop, we do a con.close. There we go. And then open close bracket and a semicolon, and that should be saving to the SQL database. Like that should be it. We should be good now to test it. We won't, because we actually want to make sure we're actually loading it. So we now want to write the load command as well. So let's make another method. Public void load SQLite. And we can actually reuse quite a bit of this.
We haven't been doing load before, was we? Am I just getting tired?
Oh, sorry, read. You're right. Sorry. Okay, sure. Read SQLite.
Just testing you're still awake. I've done that fat finger thing again.
Tell you what, could you just pop down to the on closing and remove save SQLite? There you go. Just in case you fat finger it and like there's no errors and it actually runs, and then we end up like, you know, has it worked? I mean, I suppose there's no harm if it does save. It's just, you know, it's probably a better idea because we can't actually inspect the database ourselves without this. It's probably a good idea if we get the read command sorted first.
Why is this going all red? Is it because I've not finished it?
Yeah, it's because you haven't finished it, yeah.
Read what we're doing.
So this is read SQLite.
What did I save it? So does it doesn't matter, does it?
It's yeah, it's however you want to type it.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool. I've gone ahead and copied the using var con and con.open from the save. We might as well reuse that because, you know. And then what we want to do, how are we going to do this? Let me just do another quick Google search. SQLite. Check if table exists. We want to check to see if the table exists, because if it doesn't, there's no point reading from it, right? This is essentially the equivalent like of when we in our JSON we did a if not file dot exists and then a return. We're basically doing that with SQL. Because at the end of the day, if the actually, I mean, I've just realized, like, straight off the bat, this is gonna. Oh no, this will be fine. This won't have a history fit. I was gonna say this is straight up gonna crash, but no, because I forgot it creates a file if it doesn't exist. But we do still need to check if the table exists. Okay. Interesting. So what we want to do... 1 second, so... Well, I mean, we already know what the table is to do. So, in theory, I should just be able to do var sys equals right. So yeah, let's go with this. So what we're doing here, let me just pull that up. Okay, so I've done var SQL equals and then quotes string select and then name from SQL ITE underscore master where type equals, and then I've done single quotes, and inside the single quotes table, and then outside the single quotes I've done and name equals, and then another set of single quotes to do, and then a little semicolon at the end and blah blah blah. So that's what I've done. What is yours having a moment?
I've obviously done something wrong, like not put an equal. Not put an equal. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so then what I've done is after that on the new line I've done var exists equals con dot query and then another set of those crocodile brackets and then string inside the crocodile brackets, and then set of regular brackets, and inside the regular brackets I've typed SQL, which is what we called our string up above, and then followed by a dot any open close bracket semicolon. So that's basically checking to see if the table exists. Apparently SQLite master contains a list of the tables, I think, I'm guessing, and basically if the table doesn't exist, it won't, it will return an empty, like the results will be empty, in which case any will return false because it doesn't exist. If it does exist, then it will return the one table to do, and it will give us, it will return the string called, it will return the table name, but because we're doing an any, it will return true because there is something in the list that comes back. So that's our way of checking to see if the table exists. What we then want to do is on another line under that, we want to do if, and then open close bracket, and then inside the brackets exclamation point exists, and then outside of the brackets we then want to do return followed by a semicolon, just as we did before checking to see if the file exists. That's the equivalent but for the SQL table. Right.
Do we need to do a con close on this as well, or am I getting ahead of myself?
That's a good point. You are absolutely spot on. Get rid of the return. Good catch. I wouldn't have thought of that one. We would have had a memory leak.
Oh really?
I don't think. No, I don't think it would. No, it would have. I think it would have cleaned itself up. And actually, having said that, I'm pretty sure because we're using a using, I think it does clean itself up. But it's good practice to still close. But yeah, you've got it spot on there. You want to do con.close and then a return. Close needs an open close bracket and then a semicolon at the end. Not return. The close.
Oh, well done.
There we go. And semicolon. Nice. There we go. So that if statement is now set up to handle that for us. And now I suppose we should probably read it. In which case, we kind of already written the code up above in our save, but we're going to rewrite it. But outside of the if statement, so underneath the if statement, so this is underneath the squiggly brackets from the if, but still within the read SQL-like method, yeah, so that just there. You want to do var a equals con.query with and then you want to do crocodile brackets, and you want to type activity. Okay, and then after the crocodile brackets, you then want to do open and close regular brackets, and inside here you want to type SQL. I've missed a line, but we can get to that in a second. And then you want to do, after the brackets, you want to do .toList, and then a semicolon. Okay. Oh, sorry, and then, I forgot brackets as well. You want to do open and close bracket at the end of toList. So just before the semicolon. I always forget you have to type those because ReSharper does it for you. Right, so I did mention that we missed a step, which is the SQL thing. So we actually want to type, on the line above, we want to do SQL equals, and then we want to start a string, so it's the double quotes. And you want to type select star from to do, and then with a semicolon on the end of that, of the string, inside the quote and outside the quote. There you go. That's it. We are now good. We've now got a list of activity coming from the database.
Okay.
And now all we want to do is, which one was it? Was it the JSON? Yeah, so with the JSON, we had to do something special where we had to check to see if the list we got back from the JSON was not null. We're going to do the same thing here. So actually, what we're going to do is I'm just in this read SQL-like method, the one where we've done var a equals con blah blah blah. I'm actually going to rename a to list, just so it sort of matches what we did with the JSON. And then all we do is if list not equal to null. Okay, this time it's giving us always true. Okay, so it looks like we don't actually have to do this for this one. It turns out Dapper actually handles it for us and will actually give us a solid list. Although that clearly says it's not. Oh my god. Whatever. We're just... That's not going to work anyway, is it now? What does it have suggestion-wise? Yeah, that works. Right. It turns out we don't need the if list, so we can get rid of the if list. It's not control, so we can get rid of that. Because it turns out Dapper handles that for us by the looks of it. Dapper will already give us like a blank list. It won't ever be null. Are you trying to press the home button by chance, or?
No, I'm trying to delete this, but I don't have ReSharper.
No, but you should just be able to hold shift and hit home.
Shift, right? Oh yeah, yeah, okay. That wasn't working. I'm sure it was. I might have just been hitting a home. God knows. Activity list.
Yes. So activity list equals new, and then observable collection. So just as we've used before. Actually, it's already giving you a suggestion. Yeah, you hit tab. There you go. Open close bracket. Open close crocodile bracket activity, and then after that you do an open close regular bracket with list on the inside, and then a semicolon. And that should, in theory, work.
What? Do you want me to run it? Oh, I need to put it in there. 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
Not gonna work. Save.
Right. Let's give it a go. Okay, mine didn't crash. I've got that. Oh, what have you got?
Have we got read at the top?
What you want about? No, mine still says read JSON. What's going on with yours? What error have you got?
Mine says read JSON as well. Do we want read JSON?
Yeah. You shouldn't have got an error.
I didn't.
Did you not? Are you sure? You did get an error.
Oh yeah.
What was the error on?
It did load.
And then it crashes here. What's going on here?
Mine's line 181, so it's in the for each.
Oh yeah, no. If you look at the here we go. Yeah, if you look at your SQL command, you've got star from as one. Like there's no space. There needs to be a space after the star in the line above. I think that should fix it. No, what? Hold on a sec. Tell me what this is to do. ID blog now. Default. Description. No chow 100. No default. That's really weird.
You're not getting it?
No, mine's saved. Mine's all good. Tell you what, if you stop this, and then if you delete your file, so if you go to where the folder is, if you delete the activities.db. Oh, hang on a second. Oh, okay.
You've gotten it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what's going on. The first time it works fine. Yeah. Second time. Right, that's fine. We can work around that. Let's see. People like GUID. Hold on, just trying to find the proper way of converting GUIDs and stuff. Okay, right, let's just check something. So select star, so this will be instead select. D.
Still got a whole other thing to do, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, should we leave the actual SQL Server till next time?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that might be worth doing?
And then what was it you wanted to do after that as well?
Sorry, what? Say again, sorry?
That's right. Why did you just look like you found something?
Oh, no. I was going to say, why aren't we getting an error on when we load it up? But it's because we're not actually reading from SQL. Okay, so I figured out what's going on. What it is because Blob and GUID don't actually convert in a friendly way. They do convert, but not in a friendly way. It turns out we've got to slightly modify our select in our save SQLite, our select statement. We need to modify it slightly. So instead of star, we've now got to do quote followed by bracket followed by the name of the ID column. So it should be capital I, capital D for you, I believe. So yeah, pair of brackets, there you go, yeah, and then comma, and then activity description, and then is completed. We might, I mean, in theory, can we just, I just want to try something. Is this going to have a hissy fit or? Yeah, okay, it's going to have a hissy fit, okay. Yeah, so activity description is completed. There you go, once you've done that, it should run fine. So next time you close it, it should not crash. What? Near where syntax? What? From to do where ID equals. What is the problem? Oh, wait, what? Oh, okay. On your 184, line 184, the update line, you've got a comma after the C. Is completed equals C, comma. You don't want the comma. So get rid of that comma. There you go. That should.
Well, I want one there after D.
Yeah, because you're saying you want to set activity description to be equal to D, comma, is completed equals C, but then you don't need another comma because there's not another thing after that.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go, and that should, you'll have to, start and stop it. That should work, I think.
Yep.
Okay, now, we also need to modify our read as well. So in our read, we've got a select star from to do. You might as well copy the bit you typed up above in the save, the select quote ID blah 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 blah. If you copy, just copy the whole line, and then paste it over the SQL bit at the bottom. So not that one.
This one.
That one. Yep. There you go, and then you just need to get rid of the var at the start of the line because the variable already exists. And then you just need to also remove the where, so basically everything after to do. But you still want the yeah, that's exactly it. There we go. Cool. And then now what I'm thinking we do, and I don't know how well this is going to work, is we now modify the main window bit at the top to read the SQLite. Now, is this going to work? Oh my god, that actually worked.
What did I name it? Right.
I have no idea.
Is it this?
If you remove the line entirely, yeah, you just copy it from that. Like just double click it, copy paste, you know. Nice. There you go. So that should work, I think. Yeah, there we go. Lovely. We've got saving and loading from different sources. 4 different sources so far.
How long do you think it'll take? Because I didn't realise we were that close to getting that done. Because that's SQLite complete now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep, that's cool. And how long do you think it'd take to get the online one going? A while.
No.
Quicker than that?
Yeah. It'd be much quicker than what we just spent getting SQLite working, but it's not going to be super quick. I mean, 20 minutes. I think, like, it's up to you whether you want to stop here or if you want to do that at the start of the next one.
I think start of the next one, because it's also going to be like a refresher of what we done last time, and then just finishing it off.
That's a good shout, yeah. And then we're obviously, I think next time we're going to start by we're going to move it into a web environment, right? Have it be web hosted. Yeah. Yep. So I think that'll work well. So because we'll set up the SQL side of things, and then we can transition to web. And that should then work nicely because then we can show how to set up SQL, but working from the web. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I'm happy with that. So yeah, so we're going to call it here, are we?
I think so. Yeah. Unless there's anything you want to do, if you want to push on, just let me know.
No, I mean this is it. I mean, like, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I think I'm happy for us to call that there. There's one little thing I want to do just because it's going to bug the hell out of me, and Resharp is telling me to do it. I've just modified the if statement. So in the save SQLite method we made, we have the if exists if statement. It's now a one-liner for me. Well, 3 lines, but it's one block. So basically, what I've done is I'll type it out. SQL equals. So if you want to do this, you can. SQL equals exists question mark. So it's got to be a question mark after a space. There we go. And then quotes. And then you can basically then copy the update line. So the quote, the string itself. So update to do blah blah blah. Yep. Copy that into those quotes, and then at the end of that you do a regular colon, not a semicolon, just a normal colon, and then another set of quotes, and then this is the insert one. So you just want to do the same as you did with the update, but just the insert. Paste that into that one there. And then just stick a semicolon right at the end. And because you haven't got a resharper, it won't format it, and so it looks all horrible and like massive. But it's really simple. What I do is I tend to put the question mark on a new line and then the colon on a new line. That's what I do. It just looks nice and tidy that way. And there we go. Simple as that. And what this is basically it's the equivalent of using an if statement, but inside, like, basically without having to write if. You can basically have 2 separate strings dependent on like a Boolean value. So we're saying the SQL is equal to, dependent on exists, it's either going to be update or insert. So if exists is true, use update, otherwise use insert. So that's what the question mark is basically saying, right, we want to check exists. If true, use this, else use that. Yeah.
It's funny that Resharper tells you to do like that, and then yet fucking, sorry, in that language, then you got...
Sorry. She doesn't.
Yeah. In fact, it's doing the opposite. It's telling me that it doesn't like it.
That's because you've modified it while running. If you stop it and then reload the application up.
Earlier, didn't I?
Yeah. The green line goes. There you go.
Thank you.
It's just because you can't modify C# while you're coding.
Yeah. Well, you can, but it won't save it.
Oh, sorry, while it's running. Yeah, it won't. Yeah, it won't. Yeah, you're right. It won't take effect. You can modify it, you just can't see the effects. Unlike XAML, so that if you were to make changes, I think we went through this last time, but if you make changes, you can see the XAML change live. You just can't do it with C#. You can, however, do it when we work on the web hosting side of things. You can do it with, I guess, the XAML equivalent on, on the web-based one, which is actually
a lot of web-based. Yeah, I was going to say a lot of web-based ones actually do allow you, but that makes sense because that's it. You're like creating the interface as you go, aren't you?
Exactly, yeah. So the web-based one's called Razor, or Blazor, really, but like the UI side of things called Razor. And that's, so yeah, you can modify the Razor code, which is literally HTML. It's 100% HTML. Maybe, I mean, not quite, because you can create your own HTML elements and stuff, which we'll get into. We probably won't really need to worry too much. Oh no, we will. When we turn it into a Kanban board, we will. But it's super simple, honestly. It's basically just HTML. Razor is just HTML with little bits of C# like hooked in there every now and then. Just to like reference like variables and lists and stuff, and you can do if statements as well inside the HTML, like C# if statements in HTML. It's really cool. But yeah, like collectively, the Razor and C# is known as Blazor. So a Blazor file has the Razor front end with the C# code underneath it in the same file. It's super cool. We'll get into that when we move into the web development side of things. But yeah, I think we're in a good place right now. Like we've got, we've got 4 different storage management solutions sorted. And I'm going to be honest, like pretty much 90% of the SQL server, like the actual proper SQL server side of things, we covered with SQLite. It's just, like I said, it'll be about 20 minutes where we just have to spend time connecting to a SQL server instead of a SQLite file. And there's the check where we check to see if the table exists. The way we do it at the minute is specific to SQLite. We'll have to do it differently for MySQL, like for the MySQL server. But other than that, like it's going to be identical. Like Dapper will work with it in the exact same way. Like our queries are going to be identical. Like literally, when we do our read and we do this var SQL equals select or when we do SQL equals select quote ID activity description is completed from to do, and then var list equals con.query activity SQL to list. That is going to be literally exactly the same. Nice. So these 3 lines would be identical. I mean, we might not have to use quote ID. I think MySQL might actually support GUIDs. Or I think it might actually have a friendly way of converting it so that we don't have to do this. And we also don't need the semicolons as well with MySQL. So we can get rid of the semicolons inside the quotes. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it will be exactly the same. And I mean, like I said, checking to see if the table exists will be slightly different. I don't know how we're going to do that one yet. I'll have to look that one up. It's going to be probably the same method. We just changed this SQLite master to something else. It might just be like def or something. I don't know, for definitions or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But yeah, the rest of it will be identical. The update, quite literally, the save SQLite will be the save SQL file method will be identical. Connection string will be different, but it will still be create table if not exist to do, and then we'll give it definitions. Like all of this will be the same. Again, skip the quote part, but this should be the same. Like I said, SQLite is basically SQL, but local file as opposed to on a server. So, yeah. Yes. Anyway, I think that is where we're going to call it for today. So, everyone who's watching, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I love the fact that we've had over 10 viewers for like the last 3 hours. Appreciate everyone watching. I can't imagine why people enjoy watching this, because I feel like it must be really boring to watch. Having said that, I know some people do enjoy coding.
I think you're mad if you don't enjoy coding.
I will admit I've got I do have a 24-hour video lined up. I've got a tab open on YouTube of a 24-hour video. It's a Java video to make a game engine. At some point I mean to watch through that, and I do want to follow it along, but I'm looking forward to watching it. Must be a bit sad, but whatever. I like watching code. But yeah, thanks for watching everyone. I do appreciate it. I'm not going to be live tomorrow, but I will be live on Wednesday. Not sure with what yet. What should I stream on Wednesday?
RuneScape.
No. I haven't done Final Fantasy 2 in a couple of weeks. I do intend to go through that at some point. There's just so much I want to stream. Like, there's the Java coding for the plugin. Just general Minecraft playing, like on the server that isn't a torture stream. The Windcraft. I haven't played Final Fantasy 14 on stream in like 2 months, so that's an option. Wednesday's up in the air. I'm not sure what yet. We'll figure it out. You'll see when I go live. But yes, thanks for watching, everyone. I do appreciate it. Wednesday at 7 PM UK time, and Friday for the Torch stream, 7 PM UK time. That will be on Minecraft. But yeah, thanks for watching. See everyone on Wednesday. Bye bye.